I'll check to make sure that we're going
Yeah.
here.
Um, uh, this, this, boom, donate-a-thon. We are live on Twitch. Um,
Nice.
And we're
yeah, we're
live on
live on
Substack
Twitch.
now as well.
We're live on
All right.
Substack.
Yeah, I can see it. We
We
already
are.
got
Let
4 people
me.
here.
All right.
5,
Welcome,
6.
welcome, everybody.
Got six
All
people.
right.
See,
Nice.
into it.
Welcome, everyone.
Welcome. Thanks for the hearts.
Yeah, those
We
are
love
very
the
helpful, I
hearts.
think. Yeah. If you can press the heart while we're doing this, all the better. The more eyes on this donate-a-thon, the best. We can get this out. So I'm your weirdo friend. I'm here with Will Fullwood, OnyxRose, Corinne Johansson, Oceana Tepfenhart. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Nice.
All right.
Awesome.
So we are here for, I think, maybe the first donate-a-thon that I've seen on Substack. We're here to practice community for our friend Wes LaRue, and I wanted to read to you a um, a post by his partner Elizabeth, who we are also advocating on behalf of here to get this medical fundraiser funded. And so I want to read you some of her words, and then from there I'm going to let my friends take it away. So this is from the campaign story on the Go Get Funding, which is a medical funding site that is, I think, preferable to GoFundMe. It doesn't take fees. So the campaign story says, for the last month, Wes, my partner in life since 2019 and husband of over 4 years, cannot get out of bed without his skin cracking, bleeding, and oozing pus. His entire body hurts, then itches, then hurts, then itches. His skin from head to toe cracks, bleeds, sheds, and tortures him. It was passed down genetically, the eczema, so the story goes. He was born scratching and irritation. It subsides at times, allowing him to live a normal life, but when it flares, it is entirely debilitating. Since he can barely get out of bed and doesn't want to be seen, I haven't included in a video in the Go Get Funding. He is not even checking his phone and is essentially sleeping all day. There is one form of medication, a bioloxic called Dupixent. Oh boy, I don't know if I said that right. That we know works when used consistently. It is the dermatologist's final recommendation after various concoctions of steroids and antihistamines have failed. It costs for a month's supply, 2013 US dollars a month. And, you know, it goes on. But the idea here is not the idea. The situation here is that Wes is not able to get the funding from the drug manufacturer, the discount drug. So they are paying for this out of pocket. And this is going to be the medication that helps get Wes back on his feet and out of a severe form of pain. And we are here today to hold up our friends Wes and Elizabeth and raise money for them. So we're going to talk about stories about community, what it has meant to us, and periodically we will return to the fundraiser for our friend Wes and encourage you to share. And throughout the live, we will be giving shout outs to people who have donated, but I did want to pass on from Elizabeth. She just sent us a message. She is ill today and cannot attend, but she did want to say that she wanted to thank not just the people who donate today and the people who show up for them today, but for every person who has donated to Wes's medical care and how much she appreciates you and how much Wes appreciates you. And so from there, Will, my friend, let's take it forward.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah, guys, you'll notice in the chat that OnyxRose has graciously put the links to help support this financial goal inside the chat. Okay, so feel free to copy and paste or use those tags in order to send money And just on a personal note, this is somewhat personal for me because my husband also suffers from eczema, and he doesn't have as severe a case, but it's pretty severe, and he's also had it for his entire life. So as soon as we discovered that, Wes and Elizabeth were going through this, we definitely wanted to do our part to support. And that's kind of part of what it means to be in community with people. And that's kind of a little bit what I want to start talking to you all about today. So about being in community and what that means. Okay. If you were to go into my articles that I wrote when I first joined on Substack, you'll see that I wrote about community. And community is something that I've been creating throughout the course of my life. And even in my career, y'all, I'm a teacher, right? And what do you do when you develop a classroom, when you foster a classroom environment? You're creating community when you do that. And I think the basic level that you could think about community is sharing values and acting on those values within a group. And this is one on my post that I wrote for this event. What I said was, actually, I'm just going to read it. Might as well just read the post that I wrote. So the post that I wrote, I said, "Hi, everyone. While I have my criticisms of Substack and all social media platforms, really, one aspect I cannot deny is the community building opportunities available to us via these tools. Elizabeth Silic LaRue and Devon Lesser LaRue are two quality people who I wouldn't have been able to meet or speak with without social media. And I'm so glad I was able to connect with such thoughtful, values-driven, courageous individuals. They're part of my community, those who share my values and who intentionally act on those values. That's why I'm proud to take part in and support an effort to raise money for their family's difficult health emergency happening right now. I will always stand for people in my community however I can, no matter how minuscule it might be. If you believe in me and my work, please consider donating to this cause as an extension of that work, building and strengthening community for our mutual benefit. I hope to see many of you, hear your stories of community building and connection, and to financially support those in our community who need it." Okay, so just to kind of review some of those ideas that I was talking about there, this has been my mindset, y'all, since I was a child. All right. So this is something I've been cultivating for a very long time. I've always been the glue, if you will, of various friend groups that I've been in throughout my life. I've also created a lot of various different events throughout the course of my life that were simply community building and community supporting events. One of the earliest that I can actually think of is a peer mentorship program that I was part of when I was a child. Okay. And I was kind of identified as somebody who would be good at doing peer mentorship back in middle school, taking y'all all the way back to middle school here. All right. And I was kind of running a situation where I would teach other people how to be peer mentors, right? And I would also deal with conflicts that would arise within the school community in a way that was less punitive and more restorative. So y'all, I was already restorative justice way back in the day, right? Promoting that as a value for myself and for my classmates, and acting on that by training peer mentors and also doing conflict resolution with my peers. So that's like the earliest that I could say that I first got involved in kind of shaping my community based on my values and based on our shared values, or what we're supposed to be anyway. And it kind of just continued on that way. I went ahead and continued on by setting up various different events through social media. And actually, it's ironic because the only reason I ever joined social media, y'all, is to do stuff like this. Okay. I actually never joined social media for any other reason. The very first platform that I joined was Facebook. And I joined it only because I was there like when it was first starting, when everybody was in their individual universities watching the numbers fly up or whatever. But I did not join at that time. Okay. I ended up joining years later when I was running an event. And that event was to help students who were didn't have social security numbers, right? Either because of their immigration status, or maybe their parents didn't have social security numbers because of their status. And I was helping them figure out how to fill out the FAFSA without getting dinged, and so they could still fund their education. Okay. This was, 12, 13 years ago that I organized this event and joined Facebook. And that was the impetus for me to join. And then later on, I joined Twitter. Why? Because I was starting my show, The Contraband Wagon. Okay. And that show is where I'm changing the conversation on race, right? By deconditioning people from the ideology of white male supremacy. And when I started that, I needed to find guests, right? People who I could talk to about this subject matter. And it was very difficult to find people within my personal and professional circle, although I did manage to get several people on. But I also wanted to open it up to anyone in the entire world, right? So what did I do? I went on social media, where there are plenty of people who need to be deconditioned, right? From the ideology. And I started roping them in that way. So for me, and the reason I say this is because social media has always been a tool for me, right, to express my values and to live out my values in public, in the open, so people can see it, right? And so this is just an extension of that. Everybody here, right, and everybody who is going to be coming into this event later, who helped us organize this event, we all feel connected to Elizabeth and Wes, all right? And we all feel that there's a shared values that we have with them. They have their business, conscientious immigration, right? And one thing that they help people do is to think about moving within their values, right? That's a big part of their business, is making sure that when you're immigrating to another country, that you're not bringing all of this cultural baggage with you, that you're not bringing a level of entitlement that we see a lot of U.S. immigrants bring when they go to other countries, and that you're doing it, thoughtfully, right? And critically. And I just appreciate that work so much. Why? Because it's values driven again, right? So to me, the foundation of building community is sharing values, right? I set up that event for the FAFSA because I believe that everyone deserves an education and everyone deserves access to an education. No one should not get that because they don't know how to fill out a FAFSA form, right? I have organized parties and stuff where we donate clothes, where we donate food, right? Where we donate money just like this to raise funds for a cause. I've organized blood drives with my mother, who's a nurse, and both of my parents are nurses who've been in a caring profession for their entire lives. And we do that. Why? Because we believe people deserve to be able to get medical care, right? And not to be deprived of that because there's not enough blood for them or the right type of blood or anything like that, right? Everything that I've done, right, is because I really truly believe that if you have the ability to help and it's within your values, then there should be a place for you to be able to do that, a way for you to be able to do that. And unfortunately, in our current society and environment, oftentimes it's quite difficult. You'll get ticketed for organizing to feed the poor in certain states, for trying to give people food and clothes, you can get in trouble, right? That's the society that we've built here. And if we want to make things different, and if we want to make things more aligned with the values that we share, right? For me, it's the values of truth, of love, of kindness, of community. These are the values that I want to promote. So if I'm going to promote those values and live those values, we have to create a way to do it, right? And this is how we're doing it, okay? So we're getting some amazing donations here. I definitely want to shout out Beverly Cooper Wheel, who was our very first donation during this session. Thank you so much for
Yay!
this.
Thank you, Beverly.
Yeah, and we just got a really big donation by Opti. Thank you so much, Opti. That is incredible. Your support is going to go such a long way in supporting with Wes and Lizzie and getting back up on their feet and doing the work that we love them for, so yeah, that's kind of my whole overarching viewpoint on building community. I really think it's all about shared values, and it's something that means a lot to me. As you guys, if any of you guys have seen my work, my anti-racism work is built on the idea that we should build a shared value of anti-racism across racial categorizations and classifications in order to build a better world. And that's what I'm working on, guys. So to me, I see this as just an extension of that work because it shows how we can build community. And even if it's not around the idea of race, building community is about supporting each other, lifting each other up. Okay. And that's what we're here to do. So I'm just grateful to be a part of it. Thank you guys for including me. And one other thing that I want to add before I turn it over to somebody else is community can be messy, y'all. Okay, building community is messy. It's not smooth, and that's perfectly okay. And it's something that we're going to have to embrace for those of us who want to work actively to build it. Okay, don't shy away from building it because things don't go smoothly, right? So for example, to create this, all of us are not necessarily the most tech savvy people, right? And so we had to figure out, how do we organize this? How do we put this together, right? What can everybody bring to the table, right? And we had different people bringing different things. I have some decent moderation skills. I have a lot of experience moderating conversations. So I was like, you know what? Let me start. After Dr. G gave our wonderful introduction there, I was like, let me go ahead and start the moderation, right? I was able to bring in various people, and Dr. G was able to bring in various people and Krim was able to bring in various people into our private chat where we could organize and start figuring out, okay, who's going to do what. Daedra, who's going to be here later, was able to create a spreadsheet so we could check on people's availability, right? Krim was the originator of this whole idea, right? And so we need everybody's OnyxRose was able to learn how to use Restream so that we could have all these people on here at the same time and get these QR codes and these taglines at the bottom so that you guys would be able to see how to donate, right? So everybody was bringing something different to the table, and that is the nature of community, okay? That is the nature of community, is figuring out what your individual skill is that you can bring to the table and just going all in on that for your community. And that's what we're going to need, guys, to beat back fascism. Okay.
Yeah.
So another reason why this is so important for us to model and for us to experience ourselves, because this won't be the last time we build community. All right. It's not by a long shot. So thank you guys all for being here with me and doing that work. And thank you for our people who have donated. You guys are amazing.
We love you guys.
All right, take it away, whoever's next. Sorry.
I was going to say, if I might jump in, it was actually your weirdo friend's idea for a donate-a-thon. I went to your weirdo friend and told them that my friend Elizabeth and Wes were really struggling, and so they came up with the idea. So I don't want to take the credit for that. And then we got talking about, we could involve other people, and that's how this all got going. If I may share about sort of community and some of the things I did, I'll keep it really short though, and then I can, because we got some time here, but I'll share a little bit about things that I've done with community, and then I wanted to share an anecdote about how my immediate community here in Baltimore has helped me. But I've been involved with actually the student loan debt crisis. There's a lot of other things of community involvement, but that was my jam over 10 years ago. And it was around the time of the banking crisis. And, I was in grad school like a century ago. I was going to become a historian, and this was top of the mind for a lot of people. And once I left graduate school, though, it never really left part of my thinking. And so I started a blog called All Education Matters. And so it was originally going to be sort of all inclusive about education. And I've also been a teacher. I taught at the college level. Part of the training is to be teaching, college students and so forth. But this crisis around loans is that there's sort of this fallout, and people get forgotten, and it's millions and millions of people with student loan debt. The demographics are massive. However, Black and brown people are disproportionately affected by student loan debt because they oftentimes go to for-profit schools. They will drop out. They have nothing to show for it, and then they are stuck in very low paying jobs. Oftentimes, that's not always the case, of course, but in many cases that can be the situation. So I also started putting two and two together about the ways in which it affected those communities disproportionately, which was incredibly enraging. But like I said, the demographics is wide ranging. If you look at like Parent Plus loans and so forth, it's a really, really complex problem. So I got deeply involved in this as an activist, and I wound up writing a book about it. But I knew like thousands and thousands of people who were affected by student loan debt. And at the time, I came up with policy suggestions, one of which was the cancellation of debt. I say cancellation because it should not be considered forgiveness, because most people actually have paid off the principal of their debt. I don't want to get into all the technicalities of that, but most people who are paying student loan debt, they have already paid off the principal and so forth. So I'm as you can see, I'm really passionate about this. I think that the debt should be wiped off because people get stuck in these things and they're in debt in perpetuity. And so this was a thing that I did for a decade and wound up writing a book about it a while back. But I will say, in terms of community and people really reaching out and caring for me, I had a appendicitis, and my appendix said, "Fuck you, nope, I'm going to nope on out of you." But of course, needed the help of doctors, and it was an emergency situation. And I have 3 dogs, and my neighborhood really stepped up because we have a Facebook group, and my partner was out of town, and I was like, holy shit, what am I going to do? I have to go to the ER. It was an evening, and all of a sudden I needed people taking care of my dogs. And this neighbor of mine that hardly knows me, like, out of the blue was like, "Oh, your dogs are taken care of." And then another neighbor took care of my dogs. And I was, I just have to say, I was incredibly touched because, these people, one of the guys, didn't know me very well, but I do think that's an example of caring and tending for people. And I've gotten to know my neighbors actually really well, really well. And I think that's a very important thing, especially in the times that we're living in, is to really look your neighbors in the eye, to get to know them, to offer help, whatever that may be, like the simplest things. But in this situation, it wasn't a simple thing. Like, if my dogs hadn't been taken care of, you can imagine what I would have come home to after having had surgery. So that's a little bit that I wanted to share. But I will say I write a lot about community as well. A recent article I wrote was about the global South. This Yale economist who lives down in Mexico has been reading my work, and he has written a paper about how communities in the global South are basically stepping outside of the capitalist mode of production. And they are, these are communities that are building outside of, they're building and imagining and creating communities that are no longer part of the capitalist mode of production. So it's, what I think is really amazing about that is we don't have to imagine what that might look like. because there are already communities doing it right now as we speak. And this guy who lives down there, he has been working with these communities, and I have a great piece about it, and it fills me with so much hope and excitement. And the guy, his name is his last name's Barkin, but he shared the paper with me before it was even published, which I greatly appreciated. He wrote it with several other colleagues, and I mean, these are like models that we can look towards. And there are also examples in France, which I've told Will about, because as many of you might know, Will is moving to France soon. I'm hoping to help go to those collectives. And it just fills my heart with just joy and excitement, because these are people who are intentionally saying collectively, like, we're done with this. We don't need to be exploited. We want to be ecologically centered, and our communities are going to be that way, and we are going to go on a new path that is, check you all later. So I just wanted to share that little bit as well.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Awesome. Cool. Let's check in with our GoFundMe here. Let me pull this up.
Just giving you a heads up, I did order some curries, so you are going to see me nosh on live, but
No problem at all. No problem at all. All right, guys, we're at $11,912 for
wow, that's amazing.
Oh,
OnyxRose, what's
hell
up?
yeah.
You good?
That's
nothing.
Holy crap, dude! Throw me a fundraiser.
Wow,
I could
that's
use to
amazing.
get out of my mom's house.
One thing, guys, that Elizabeth mentioned in one of her posts about this is all the money that people use to support white supremacists, who are terrorizing people, who have murdered people. I mean, these people, they raise tens of thousands of dollars in a matter of hours, and
right.
It's so interesting to interesting is the word, but it's frustrating too, right? To see that these people can be so readily supported, right, for their tyrannical acts. And unfortunately, when we're trying to get people to support for community building and for community events, for health events, it's people are more reticent to give, right? And it's something that we really have to work on. Well, I mean, I think that there's various. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think it's a negative idea? Like, I don't want to give. Like, I don't know. It seems like I don't know. Like, white supremacists and all of them are happy to give money to their cause, but when it comes down to community building, mutual aid, people get a little bit squirrely. You know.
I actually have a little bit of an explanation about that.
Go for it.
Okay.
So for those not in the know, I grew up around, well, for one thing, I grew up in one of the only quote unquote all white towns in New Jersey. We had 15 people of color out of 5,000 people. So I heard a lot of stuff. And back in the day, when I was a teenager, I actually hung out with people from the Young Republicans Club. And even back then, when it was like 2008, 2006, it was interesting that I noticed that there was this kind of like nonchalance about where are we going to get the money. Money was like readily available. And that always kind of struck me as interesting and weird, because the Democrats are always asking, please fundraise for this, please fundraise for this. But Republicans were like, hey, we'll pay you $100, just put door hangers on every door. And after a while, I started to notice something interesting about right-wing groups and how the funding would work. And this became actually common knowledge when it came to the Mormon Church. The Mormon Church actually bankrolls a lot of their influencers that push white supremacy, white power, Mormonism, and Christian nationalism. And the thing is that what you're seeing right now is you're actually seeing a lot of astroturfing. A lot of those accounts don't belong to real people. A lot of those accounts are just trickling in small amounts so that it just goes right underneath the IRS threshold so that they don't have to explain where all that dark money came from. The Mormon church does it. The Russian government does it. What you're seeing is it's straight up just government money that's funding these awful people. When you're seeing people actually like donating towards the health in the community and the mutual aid of other people, that's a real freaking person 9 times out of 10. This also explains why a lot of those white supremacists, there have been so many studies done on the isolation of white nationalism and how literally they're so lonely in that entire political sphere that it messes with their brains. That's why half of them are off the deep end in conspiracy theories. That's also why they're not grounded in reality. That's the difference between us and them. Everything that you see there, aside from the money, is fake. They don't have a community. They don't have an actual belief system that is their own. They don't have real connections with people. That's why we are freaking awesome and they suck.
Yeah.
That
like
is
that.
really good information. Thank you for that.
Yeah, astroturfing is definitely a big problem, and it belies the reality on the ground. Like I was just in Anchorage, and I went and checked out the No Kings, which was interesting. And there, I mean, half the population lives in Anchorage, okay? So you're going to get a lot of different political views, right? And aside from people's attitudes about No Kings, that it was a lot of trans people were there, and it was a very colorful, great event. But I will say, in terms of opposition, there was only one truck there that was a brand new white truck that had all these dumb signs that were pro-capitalist and Trump and flags. But I thought, that is such astroturfing. Somebody paid for that truck, and that was the only opposition you saw in all of Anchorage, which is, again, half the population of Alaska. And you would think there would have been a lot more opposition. So I thought that was quite, it was telling to me.
Yeah, like that's a real thing. I actually, at my job, I work as a secretary. And one day we had somebody who came in with a Trump shirt. And this guy, when he first saw me, like, I almost had to call the cops on him because I was scared he was going to hit me. That's how aggressive he was.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Long story short, I had to pause and I asked him about the Trump shirt. All of a sudden, he was like a big cuddly teddy bear. He's like, oh, yes, Trump, let me talk to you about that. Long story short, this guy was talking to me and he's like, yeah, my wife left me. All my friends started to vanish for some reason. But I found Trump and that makes me happy. And I was like, oh, is that so? And he's like, and then I found all these guys who do science. Like, did you know that the moon isn't real? I was like,
oh, wow.
I was like, and he was like, I thought that you were one of those, dumbass liberal types. I was like, well, you definitely schooled me. How was I supposed to know that the moon wasn't real? Clearly, I'm not hanging out with the right crowd. But that's the thing. Like, the astroturfing is real, and they do target these lonely people who don't have a community and don't have that like base to keep them grounded.
It makes sense, there's a lot of self-loathing in that crowd, and I'm sure that makes people very manipulatable,
Yeah, exactly.
So guys, thank you guys for your continued support of Elizabeth and Wes. Really appreciate the donations that we're seeing come in. We've got another donator here. I can't see the name on the site, but another $50. So thank you guys for sending that in.
So
Every
much.
little bit helps. Okay.
Yeah.
Y'all, you don't have to be ashamed because you can't give like $100 or something. Okay. Like any little bit helps. I've literally given people the shirt off my back. Okay. In the New York City subway, there was a man, he needed the shirt off my back. And I took my shirt off and I gave my shirt to this person. You know, I was walking up the subway stairs once and there was a black man who was having a mental health crisis standing at the top of the stairs as you're coming up out of the subway. And I was exhausted. It was late. I had been traveling and working all day. And I didn't have any money to give this person. I didn't have anything to offer except for a hand on his chest. That's what came to me to do. So when I walked up and I met him at the top of the stairs, I put my hand on his chest to let him know that I acknowledge him, that I recognize him. And then I kept it moving, you know, and even little tiny acts, right, can make a really big difference. And that's even the case in these fundraisers that we're doing. Even if you can give $1, okay, it makes a difference. And it's part of building community. All right. So don't think that you can't do anything because, oh, I don't have it like that. Okay. I don't even have a job and I donated. All right. So if I can manage it, y'all can manage it. And you could be part of this effort to really help our friends. And y'all, Elizabeth has managed to join in a little bit and watch the stream. So we're so grateful that she's here to cheer us on and supporting her. And she's not feeling well, guys. So really, we hope for her to get better as well. Both of them are horizontal. Wes's feet still are swelled up, it sounds like, from what she's saying in the chat. So yeah, he's still suffering and we could really use everyone's help. Okay. So use this, you know, find that community spirit within yourself. All right. That voice inside that says, you know what, I can give of myself for someone else. I can give of myself for someone else. All right. Everybody has that in them. Everybody, even the most selfish, narcissistic person has something in there that they suppress. All right. Well, here it's time to bring it out. All right. Click on that link, post it in your browser, go ahead and donate a little bit. And let's get them to reach their goal.
Yeah.
Should we do a quick technical moment to help out OnyxRose with getting us live or?
Yeah, because I'm still like waiting on something to happen with Substack, but while we're doing the technical thing, I guess
I'm not really
So what's going on with that?
I see it on Substack.
So yeah, we're
Are you saying
broadcasting
it's
from
not live
Substack
on your pages?
it's not live on my pages now.
It's not on your page, is what you're saying.
Okay. So here's the thing, guys. All right. So when we do these, right, and you want to have a co-host, which is the only way that it can be live on your page is if you're a co-host. So when we were setting it up, you could only have 3 co-hosts at a time, I guess, or something. So
right.
we chose OnyxRose, we chose Kryn, and we chose Dr. G. And right now it looks to me that we have OnyxRose and Kryn. It should be on your pages. And then Dr. G, you said you didn't accept the invite. And so, yeah, now we're trying to figure out how we can invite Dr. G from now. I have no idea how to do that either. So if you know how.
I'm still learning all the technical stuff.
One way you might be able to do it, OnyxRose, is if you're looking at the stream from Substack, you should be able to in the upper left-hand corner see like your name and Kryn's name. If you just click on that little window, does anything come up that allows you to add another host?
It will not allow me to add another host. It just shows my name, Kryn's name is host.
Okay.
Yeah, I figured. I think once we start the stream, you can't really add a host. You have to do it before. So
right.
So yeah, that's where we're at. We have to make do. But we've got 33 people in here who are joining us, more people coming in.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. Miss H, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, and thank you for your patience as we, this is the first time we're doing this, and we've also we're going to be here until 4, but we have all acknowledged that this is the first time in a practice, right? Where we are crowdsourcing and practicing community right now, and in terms of trying to figure out how we can use this platform and various streams to help our friends. So this is not going to be the only time we do this, and we will only get better as more people, as we learn and as people crowdsource. Hey, I saw this, and next time you do it, here's another thing that also helps. There's we did this collaborating together. All I had was an idea, and I was like, and I told Corinne, I was like, I think I told all of you this. I got it from the Golden Girls. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yep.
I was like, there are donate-a-thons on the Golden Girls, and I am
Jody
sure we
joined us.
can do
Hello,
this.
Jody.
So yeah, and all of our friends made this happen. I was like, I can do a flyer and have this idea, and everyone here and everyone who's about to be on this live has made this happen for our friends, Wes and Elizabeth. Yeah, and Will, one of the things that you were saying too about like any amount that you can donate to this fundraiser is an amount that we didn't have before. So this is all going to Wes and Lizzie. But I know I could talk about community, and I think I will as things flow through. But I actually wanted to share a poem that is not mine. It's by Bonaro W. Overstreet, and I want to explain why I want to share it. So I am a community college teacher. I've been a professor for since 2002. Math is hard. I think that's 23 years. And occasionally, my students will be like overwhelmed by learning about structural abandonment and systemic harm. And they're like, what do we even do in the face of all this? Like, how do we intervene when we are just one person? And I tell them two things, and the second part is the poem. But the first part that I tell them is that, the biggest trick that I think that white supremacy culture teaches all of us is that power is held through institutions, lateral institutions, like your city government, your state government, your federal government, or any institution, workplace that you belong to. That if you can't move through the institutions and get what you want, then you don't have power. But power has actually always lived laterally in every institution that we have built or that has been built to subject people, right? It is only loaned power from actual people, but power always lives horizontally and laterally. In fact, when we talk about things like politics, whether it's work politics or governmental politics, it's really, in some ways, a theater, the story that we tell about how power works. And they put on that theater for everyday people to be like, this is what power is and this is how it works. But all of us own that power and put it on loan to these institutions. But also we can move outside of those systems to help each other and to advocate for each other in all of these various many ways, right? So please, I think this moment really encourages a lot of us to divest from this notion that power is only had through institutional means. That's anytime power has shifted in any kind of way, that has always started outside of the institutions that are designed to harm marginalized individuals, right? We live in a profoundly anti-Black, anti-trans, anti-First Nation, ableist, sexist, all of the freaking things. This is because we, at least in the context of the United States, our system is built around coercive control. So I try to explain to them where power lives. And sometimes they look at me like I'm pointing to like molecules of oxygen when I say that. And they're like, what do you mean? Right. So this is why I try to go with the second piece, which is this poem, because I think that it speaks to the thing, right? Because sometimes you can explain something rationally to somebody and they're like, I hear you, but I don't feel you. And when you feel somebody, that's when you actually understand a thing. So this is a poem from Bernardo W. Overstreet called Stubborn Ounces. So if you've heard this before, it's one of my favorites. So it's called Stubborn Ounces, and there is a sort of subheader to it that says, to one who doubts the worth of doing anything if you can't do everything. And it's short, 2 stanzas. You say the little efforts that I make will do no good. They will never prevail to tip the hovering scale where justice hangs in balance. I don't think I ever thought they would, but I am prejudiced beyond debate in favor of my right to choose which side shall feel the stubborn ounces of my weight. And that's usually how it's a poem that I save on my computer. I've made art to remind myself of this. And that's so important because when we think about power, we think about it as this top-down thing, but it is always lived in the fabric of community. And you first have to feel that for yourself and then start practicing it. So, and I'll pass the mic.
That was wonderful. That was beautiful. And, I think it's right in line with what I was saying about values, right? Because that is a values-based proposition there, right? Like it's not about the impact, it's about the person you want to show up as, and how you want to show up. And it's a decision that you make, guys, for your life and how you want to live. And for me, I don't want to be living in a world where however it happens, tens of thousands of dollars are going to people who commit these racist, sexist, transphobic acts of violence. I want my money to go to people like Elizabeth and Wes, who are out there doing good work, who are building something in their community in Mexico, making relationships there, and who have really built a strong community here on Substack based on their authentic selves and the work that they are bringing to all of us, the knowledge that they're bringing about their experience. And for me, somebody who's about to be immigrating to a new country, right? I mean, that experience and that storytelling that they were doing about their own move and about the barriers that they experience, the struggles they experience, and what I might expect, that's invaluable for me, And, it's for me, even though like I'm not one of Elizabeth's clients, I'm not one of the conscientious immigration clients, but I immediately paid, I immediately paid for the Substack because just of the values being aligned, period, and for me, that's enough. That's enough. If I see values alignment, then I'm going to support, There's people on here who are fighting for trans rights in various ways. I give my money. I support. Why? Because that aligns with my values, is supporting humanity, right? And that's a part of that. And I mean, I have limited funds, here. Like I said, I've got a little trickle in from my patrons at this point, and that's really all I have. But I'm going to share it with my community members. All right. And this is a choice as a way of living, as a way of life. Okay. So this is not a one-off for me. This is something I'm going to be doing forever. And like Krim was talking about, those communities who have already decided to, divest from capitalism and invest in a different kind of system, those are communities I'm going to be seeking out actively and intentionally so I can try to become a part and build. And so hopefully I can bring something back for us, in the United States, and find new ways of living with each other and existing with each other and supporting each other's life. Because definitely the stories that Dr. G was mentioning earlier about how power works, how we should be existing within those structures, and how to get ahead in those structures, those stories have led us to, destruction. And we're going to have to find a new story, and I think many of us are searching for that. Many of us are hungry for that. Even those lonely white Christian nationalists that we, Oceana, you talked about before, like people are desperate for a true way of living. In other words, an authentic way of living. And right now, the structures that we have built have encouraged us to live inauthentically at a very fundamental level.
Well, they're very top heavy right now too. I mean, these parasitic billionaires, I mean, this is not sustainable. It's killing us all. It's literally killing the planet, and it's not sustainable. You know?
Yeah. So yeah, it's also killing them. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, imagine being them, like, and being surrounded by sycophants. I mean, it's pathetically sad. Like, I wouldn't ever want to be like that. It's psychotic.
So I have a little bit of experience in this. Well, not quite this, but this is going to be like one of those tales of the two cities. You know what I mean? So for those of you not in the know, I come from the old school underground rave scene, and a lot of us were crust punks, gutter punks, you know, hardcore ravers. We're on and off the streets, and a lot of times the difference between being left alive on the streets and being dead was having people in your corner. There were several years where I basically had almost no income. And the people who kept me alive were the people who were like, yeah, well, there's this party over here. Sleep overnight at this party and you'll be good. And it's funny because while I pretty much disavowed the rave scene since my divorce, the people who stood up for me during, you know, a lot of issues there, they're all my ex-boyfriends from that scene. They're always the ones who are like, listen, just give me a call. Let's get you out of here. One even like invited me over to Vietnam and was like, listen, no questions asked. If you just need to leave the country for a while, do it. But I know somebody who went to the Met Gala. She's a friend of mine. And she actually had hired me at one point to write an article about her breakup with a billionaire. And she said that was like trying to date a teenage boy. The dude had no personal growth. None.
Yeah.
Could not, like, that kind of emotional stunting where you're in your 30s or your 40s and you're still got the mind of a 16-year-old.
Right.
That only happens when people don't talk to you. Like, as a high masking
anyone. Yeah.
Yeah. As a high masking neurodivergent person, I realize I come off aggressive at times or come off crazy at times, but you can tell that there's more in my brain than a 16-year-old. That kind of level of stunting means that that person has never actually had a real relationship where they actually had to make decisions to better other people's lives.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And Oceana, you know what you're making me think of is that conversation recently that got broadcast with the founder of Walmart, you know, and he's like, oh, yeah, I just built Walmart and then I just started building more Walmarts, you know, and like, and just like that is all that's all that was in that man's head. It's like building Walmart and like anything related to building Walmart. And just, he was completely incapable of thinking outside of that. And so, yeah, it's very
imaginative.
Yeah, right. I mean, it stunts your imagination, right? When
it does.
Yeah, when you are only thinking in a tunneled way, right?
Narrow
like
track thinking, yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to get access to other stuff. And yeah, it just creates these really immature, emotionally stunted, like you said, just lacking empathy oftentimes, right? Because how do you build connections with others if you're always thinking about, you know, yourself and your own little fiefdoms, right. You know?
Right.
So yeah. I just want to remind everyone, because I'm going to have to drop off here in a couple minutes. I'm celebrating someone else who I'm in community with today as well. Nice. A friend of mine who has earned her PhD.
Oh, great.
A wonderful Black woman who earned her PhD today, and she had her graduation ceremony this morning. We're going to go over to the house and celebrate her. She's been through the ringer like most Black women, right?
Yeah.
trying to show that they know a thing or two, and
What's her
I was
PhD in?
lucky.
What's her area?
She's an education specialist and
Oh,
psychology
okay.
specialist.
Wow. Very cool.
And yeah, so it's been really cool. I was able to help her out in the past. Also, this is another community support thing, where she was being unfairly targeted by our former employee, our former employer. Okay, we both used to work at the same community college, and she was targeted and fired 3 days after being given paid family leave. Okay,
Oh,
so
man.
yeah, so she got approved for family leave, and 3 days later they fired her. So she wanted to get a lawyer, fight that, because it was illegal what they did, and
Yeah.
I was part of an organization at the time that was representing all higher education faculty in the state of North Carolina. So I was able to advocate on her behalf and get her funds to pay for a lawyer so that she could
Good.
follow through with that process.
Yeah.
So I just bring that up to say, guys, that this kind of thing that we're doing here, right? This is something that I practice in my life all the time. All right. I am consistently giving of myself for people. And this is a decision that I have made for myself. This is not a decision I'm making individually for each individual person. This is something I've decided for myself as a way that I want to show up in this world. I want to show up in this world as someone who is supporting people who share my values and doing that in tangible ways that people can name, that people can feel, that people can experience. And whether that's a hand on someone's chest or $1 in their pocket, okay, it's enough. It's enough. And I want everyone out there to realize that and to remember that. Luckily, I could do a lot more this time for Elizabeth and Wes. Thanks to my wonderful husband who's allowed us to donate a significant amount to the fundraiser here. And I encourage you guys to continue donating. Okay. Right now we're just shy of $12,000.
Oh,
I'd
that's
love
great.
to get us over that $12,000 mark at least today. All right. So please, if you haven't
Definitely.
already given money, if you have something that you can spare, even if it's $5, we're only $38 away from 12,000 for them. So please try to get us over that hump by donating a little bit. Links are all in the chat. Thanks to OnyxRose. We got Cash App, we got Venmo, we got PayPal, we got Zelle. We've got the GoFundMe. All right. So any way, any flavor that you prefer, go ahead and click on that and try to get it done. And Elizabeth, you're so welcome. We just love you to death, you and Wes, and we hope you guys both feel better soon. All right. And even though this is I'd much rather be bringing you soup to your house, and and
I
helping
know. I
y'all
wish
out
they were there to
physically.
take care of them.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we could actually go and take care of you. And but this is the next best thing. And I see that you've gotten donations from Venmo as well. Thank goodness. And I'm just so pleased.
That's great.
Yeah. So guys, thank you so much. I'm heading out. Okay, I'm gonna head out to this
Have a nice
graduation
rest of your day,
party.
Will.
Thank you. You guys too.
Nice
And
seeing you.
Well,
it was wonderful.
Tell your girl to give him hell, because Lord knows some people need it.
Oh, she will. Trust me. She's a fighter, man. To get to this point, she really fought hard, and I'm so proud of her. And I can't wait to go celebrate. So I'm gonna do that now. So, bye, guys. Take care. So long.
all right.
Bye.
Bye, Will. And then there were three. All right.
All right,
Then
you
there
all
were
are coming
three.
with me for a cigarette.
Yeah, I just had to wolf down some curry. I was like, why am I dizzy? And I was like, oh wait, I'm hungry.
Right. I haven't eaten. I had a long night. No, I just want to kind of hop on what Will said. I do things on a much smaller basis. I am not like a big organizer type of person, but I do help. I'm known for helping trans people, my trans brothers and sisters, and peeps from another mother and father. Those that don't have family, I do give my money freely when I do have money. But yeah,
Yes.
my concentration is on working one-on-one. I feel like it is a calling, and I don't take it lightly at all. It is it is a spiritual calling for me to help people in any way, shape, or form that I can. So something like this is always great. It's just in my nature. It's from a place of empathy. I can put myself in people's shoes, and I can feel and understand, the pain and the suffering, the that's and why things like this are necessary. To believe that we can do this by ourselves all the time is ridiculous. We need to be able to lean on people. We need to be able to expect that people will be there for us when we are having a hard time. I appreciate all of this. I appreciate y'all bringing me on. I believe it was Dr. G. Pat who brought me on. So thank y'all for that.
Yeah, she did.
And
I'm
now
glad that you're here.
He's
thank
back, or
you.
they're
Thank
back.
you. Oh, they're back. Let me bring them on. There they are. Let's see. Whoa.
Hey, human. Oh,
What's
bye,
up,
human.
Doc? Oh, no.
Oops.
That was yeah. We're still getting used to Restream here.
Hi.
Are you in? No, shit.
They keep going away.
Bear with us, everyone.
Okay, I'm going to do it once. There we go. That should be it. Okay.
I'm back. I was in the chat for a minute. Yeah.
You were. I saw you.
Yeah, I was hanging out with Deidre, and Elizabeth is still there, I think. So yeah, I just wanted to spend some time in the chat. So when we're in Restream, we can't see what's in the Substack chat. So I'm gonna try to pop in there. I thought that I could leave.
You have your. Are you on your phone?
No, I'm on my laptop. My phone is hot trash.
You should
cracked.
You should be able to see it.
Oh, I can't. It's okay though. It's the I
Okay.
can't see the chats coming in, but I can occasionally pop into the chat and jump back in. So I took the liberty while I was going to the water closet. Well, after I went to the water closet to get a giant bowl of goldfish crackers. So
I had
my lunch, my lunch, friends. I've gone fishing.
Goldfish.
Huh?
I said
I will be having
you're a child at heart
tonight.
Oh yeah. And I'm only gonna do this just to make my husband laugh because I know he'll laugh when I do this. So I really as somebody, I know I'm going to be on here until like 4, so I'm happy to like filter in like my stories of community. But as somebody who, for the sake of survival, is estranged from my family, I understand on certainly one level that is practical that being in community is survival. And one of the ways that we have been one of the reasons why weak hoarding individuals have been able to manipulate people so much is because of dividing people and teaching you that the only thing that you're meant to do is to go to work and to consume and then go home and be very tired and then get on streaming services to consume the stories that they want you to consume, to idolize the kind of life and the kinds of bodies and lives that they want you to idolize.
Yep.
And to be so tired and so fearful. When I have worked with, I'm a community organizer of 2 decades, and I also study and research community organizing from the level of communication and how organizations build each other. And I've been mentoring people for the last year, a new level of organizing. And one of the things that I've found is that people are very afraid, almost more afraid of watching what is happening, even though they know that it's bad, the thing that I hear over and over again is, I'm so isolated, and their fear is talking to their neighbors that they don't know. They'll say things like, I talked to my partner about this, or I talked to my best friend about this, and they're not there. And so I don't know what to do. I'm so isolated. And my answer is always, keep trying, try again, and reach out to people that you don't know, because sometimes the people who are closest to us might be in a chronic freeze state from a lifelong experience of trauma, and don't know that there is another way to live in community, which is where our power actually lives. Because when we take care of each other, we are that much harder to take advantage of, and we have so much power. And so now I'm going to transition into talking about another really inspiring thing, and this is the part that's going to make my husband laugh, not the part that I just said. So I love, Crane, you said I'm a child at heart, and that's the only reason why I thought of this. So I do make a practice of reading, and I have always found that young adult literature and middle grade literature and children's literature is actually oftentimes more, and also animated series are more exciting and actually have better writing, because it's harder to hold kids' interest in a story. And so as someone who teaches writing, a thing that I have consistently found, setting aside the snobbery of higher education and what it considers literature and film, right, is that it's actually people writing in like fantasy and speculative fiction, and especially in and around teaching young readers and young audience members that there's the most creative storytelling. And one of my favorite, this is the part that's going to make my husband laugh, because I cannot stop talking about this cartoon, and I will not stop. So it is on Netflix. It is the only streaming service I still have, but if it gets bought over by some scary fascist, I will unfortunately have to part ways with this show. But this show is called Pinky Malinky. I know that if my husband is on this chat, he is laughing right now. It is a story. So it's an animated series. They're only about 20 minutes long. The intros and so it's animated. So the intros and outros are of these three middle schoolers who make like YouTube, videos. So intros and outros are those little videos that middle schoolers might create. And then the next like segment of like 12 minutes is this story of them like in middle school, just going through their lives. The reason why it's called Pinky Malinky is because the main character is a hot dog, a sentient hot dog. Every other character in this film is a human being, and they make zero explanations for why Pinky is a hot dog, and it is so fantastic. And the whole thing is legitimately about building community.
That's great.
And it is so wholesome. And so if you are feeling down and you are feeling like, I just need to have something on that is just a little bit silly, that just gives me, like my husband and I quote from it all the time. One of the opening episodes, one of the characters, Babs, is like trying to throw popcorn in Pinky's mouth, and she's missing, and like he's like, just try again, over and over again. And she finally gets like one piece of popcorn in his mouth, and he's like, never give up. And they pan out, and the entire kitchen is like filled to the brim with popcorn. But like, so we just joke all the time. We're like, never give up. Every time we're like messing something up. But there are just so many really cute scenes of community in there. And there's a whole range, I could talk about animated film and how it celebrates community forever, but I wanted to plug a sentient hot dog hanging out with two kids. And I also love that other character, JJ, his family structure, he has three dads, so they're in a polycule. So I really love that too. It's just like really cute. So it's a really neat show. I love it.
I love that. I'm a Bluey fan.
Bluey.
So yes, I call it crying puppy show, because you can always tell when I'm watching certain episodes, because you'll just see me doing this in front of the TV. Like that sad cry where you're not even making any noise. Like Bluey is one of those other ones where they have like a lot of community. You see Bluey hanging out with her friends. You hear about like Bluey's mom getting the 5 lasagnas from Coco. Was it Coco or Judo's mom? Or like how Coco noticed that like Bluey's mom was starting to isolate after her first kid because she thought that she was failing, and she was like, "No, you're doing fine." Such a beautiful thing. But yeah. Oh, hello. Hi, human.
Hi, folks.
And
Not a hot dog.
not a hot dog. I don't know
Not
if
a
you
hot
heard me
dog.
talking about the hot
Not a hot dog.
Yeah. Evan, have you
We were
heard me
talking
talk
about a
about
show
Pinky
about a
Malinky
hot
when
dog.
we've talked?
I beg your pardon?
I have clearly never. I haven't ever talked about Pinky Malinky when we've been on alive, have we?
No, this is.
Oh my God.
Malinky is a new one for me.
That's fantastic. Well, I have to tell you, I feel like I need to weave it into one discussion. Anyway, it's a cartoon that has it's all human beings, and the main character is a sentient hot dog, and it is hilarious and wholesome. And every time I explain it to somebody, they look at me like, "Who are you? And why are you watching this?" But
Well,
it is cool.
You reminded me though of when we were in lockdown with COVID, and to escape, I started watching a show that was basically for teenagers, and it was on Netflix too, and it was called Lock and Key,
Oh,
and it had magical elements of it in it, but all the characters were they were younger. Some of them were younger than the teenage age. And
No.
but it dealt with, so the premise was a family who inherited this house because the father had died under very mysterious circumstances, and they moved from the West Coast to this town in Massachusetts, which I love because I've lived in New England, and like I have my heart's still there. I used to have a cottage in Maine, and all were welcome except fascists, of course. But they moved to this old, huge Victorian house, and they discover these magical keys that children do. And it was just a really great escape. But they dealt really well with like how you contend with grief and the stages of grief and things like that, and how children deal with it too. But then there were all these magical elements to it, and I mean I loved the show. I mean, I was really interested. I mean, it was very, very interesting, and it was, it was really complex, and the relationships that the children had and the teenagers had with each other were really great. And I got really, really into it. So your description of the Peaky Malinky made me think of that show too.
it's a good show. I watched that one too. The last season I was like,
Yeah, I wasn't into the last season
because I am committed to a thing, but I love animation. My favorite, and I'm going to Evan, I'm going to give you some time to think about a story about when you were in community or experience of community. And as you're thinking about that, I'm going to talk about my favorite course that I've ever taught, which is a senior seminar. It's something that like graduating English majors take. And I taught it the first time during the pandemic. And I taught it, every one of them has a theme. And generally professors do this like crummy thing where they specifically just like, design their class around their own research interests, like 19th century medical literature for women. And like, no one freaking wants that. So I was like, you know what? We're going to do kids in the apocalypse. And we did,
oh, cool.
We did like Adventure Time and Kipo in the Age of Wonder Beasts and Over the Garden Wall, and a number of other ones like She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. So both pre-apocalyptic and post-apocalyptic stories. And it was, there were, Steven Universe was in there. But it was really cool because, one of the things that we noticed is like a common theme throughout these pre and post-apocalyptic films was just how important, being in community with the people around you and in your neighborhood, and realizing that your fate, hinges upon another person's. And so it was one of my favorite classes. My students enjoyed it, and they just got to like watch animated films and then talk analyze them, and it was just super cool. And I feel like I have stalled now enough. Evan, you got anything you want to, as you join us? Welcome to the chat.
Welcome. Yeah.
Can we do a little reset? Why are we here? What is this about? How's our fundraiser going? Catch me up.
Yeah. Excellent. You know what? I will do that. So we are here for our friend Wes LaRue and his partner Elizabeth. And Wes is in the middle of a very, very painful eczema flare-up that is creating a situation where he literally cannot get out of bed. And he is the eczema is covering his whole body, and he's experiencing because of constantly needing on steroids that it compromised immune system, so a lot of secondary infections. And there is just one med after they've tried the whole battery of things that is going to work for him, but it needs to be given consistently. And Elizabeth and Wes have had to pay for that out of pocket because they are not eligible for the discount program that people commonly use. And so they're paying about $213 US per month for that treatment, which, as folks know, is pretty is significantly cost prohibitive. I absolutely could not do that. That would devastate any family. And so we're here to be in community with Lizzie and Wes, and to be in this donate-a-thon, hoping to raise money so that Wes can afford medication that can get him out of bed and get him back into a space where he's not feeling like he is in agony. And so far, at least on the Go Get Funding website, we are just shy of reaching $12,000. The goal is to reach $18,000. And this is our first attempt at a donate-a-thon to raise money for our friends. So if you are able to donate even $5, we would really appreciate everything that you can give can help. So can sharing, so can pressing the heart on Substack Live, or restacking our live. We'll be here until 4 p.m. Eastern time. And in between, we are sharing stories of community. And also we are going to be throughout giving a shout out to people who are donating during our donate-a-thon. So is that a good catch up, Evan?
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Sweet.
So I'm from Minneapolis, and I used to live in the Lowry Hill neighborhood of Minneapolis, which is kind of near the intersection of downtown and uptown, a beautiful area adjacent to the wealthy Kenwood neighborhood. But Lowry Hill is largely renters, and I lived in an apartment building with a lot of middle income, lower income folks during 2020, 2021, during COVID lockdown. So it was a time when people were extra isolated and struggling a lot. And after the summer of 2020, that was also a period of time when we had lived through the summer of George Floyd at its epicenter. And a lot of folks in my little Lowry Hill apartment community had been active and part of that protest movement. But whether or not people were on the streets, we were all living through helicopters and fire trucks and smoke and all of this warning and all of this tumult. So it was a difficult time. There was an area in the back of the apartment building that some of my neighbors took upon themselves to turn into a community garden. And they cleared everything, they organized it, they drew up little plots so people who wanted could plant whatever they want. They cleared the rocks and the stones, and it was this really beautiful thing. And in the spring of 2021, we started to get flowers and herbs, and including my favorite herb, which is dill. Now, I didn't plant anything. I was just an enthusiastic supporter of the community garden. But when the dill started to come up, I went out there almost every day and plucked a little bit of dill for my eggs, because dill with some eggs, it's really nice, it's simple, it's delicious. And so I took advantage of the community garden personally. Eventually, I decided I was going to make some matzo ball soup. It was a cooler season, and and I made the whole thing. Remember with COVID, it's like you got to have your projects. So you get the chicken, you make the schmaltz, and you do the layers of the veg stock and all of this. But dill is an essential herb, both for the chicken stock and for the chicken salad. And if you really want to take your matzo balls to the next level, get some chopped parsley and chopped dill in the matzo meal. Anyway, I took the dill and added it to the soup, but I couldn't just make matzo ball soup for myself. I also brought some to my neighbors. And so at that point, I was no longer taking advantage of the community garden for my own culinary delights, but I was able to bring some of the benefits of the community garden in the form of that soup to some of my neighbors that had been community leaders and helped to spearhead the garden project all along. So that was a fun moment of the community garden coming around full circle at a moment when our tight-knit little Lowry Hill apartment community of renters was really needing each other more than any other time.
That is lovely, and it is a lovely story. And you're right. I'm so glad that you said that thing about how you were an enthusiastic supporter of the community garden, and even like the emotional support of that. And then you're like, and I'm making soup for other people, and that is. I love me a community garden. I think it's I had always been a gardener, but during COVID, because there were some grocery shortages, I went from a gardening for myself to taking up the entirety of the front part of the had like a cottage, like a Cape Cod, a really teeny tiny brick house that I had with my ex, and I put out 5 raised garden beds and these huge arching trellises, and just grew shit. I was just like I was like the sort of zucchini pusher of the neighborhood, and just walking around dropping off vegetables,
zucchinis on kids,
and I'd be like, "Hey, want some basil?" But anyway, it was cool because like people would stop, and I would go on runs, and people would remember and be like, "What are you growing this season?" And people stop by and they're like, "That's so cool. I'm going to do it on my block." And so at the time that I started, I was the first one. And then by the time I did move out of the place where I was in my garden, heartbreak. But the person who bought it did in fact was a gardener. So I know my garden's still there. But anyway, there are now, at least at the time that I left, 4 more community gardens just in my 4-block radius. And, it does build community because people will stop and talk, and, there's exchanging of plants. I met a lot of people in the neighborhood who, invited us over. And then we started, being able to do things like locate people's lost dogs, or find out about the young trans kid in the neighborhood who was being bullied. And then, dropping off like a homemade felt doll for him to sort of hug in stressful times. But it really became an opportunity to really meet my neighbors in a way that I was never able to do by just taking up space differently in the front of my residence. So, but a community garden is always a magical thing. So I love that your story was a garden story. It makes me happy.
And here I was thinking that I was going to be around straight-laced people. Look at this one pushing zucchinis on innocent people. It's all of you.
I was
Italian zucchini too.
So 3 things about that. It's related to Occupy. I was really involved with Occupy, and one of the things I did, it's related to food too. I was living in the Dallas-Fort Worth area when Occupy emerged, and I went to Zuccotti Park. I actually reported on when Occupy had already spread across the United States. I was the first to write about it spreading nationwide. But I made a bunch of food for the people in Fort Worth. So I took it down to the people that occupy Fort Worth, and I gave them a bunch of food, which made me feel pretty happy. But then I worked with she's unfortunately now deceased. She was my mentor at one point, Barbara Ehrenreich. But we collected like a bunch of the names of like the mayor's numbers, and I helped. Together we created this massive spreadsheet for the Occupy groups, like for numbers of important offices, you know, in case they needed to like do like reach out for, you know, issues around, like if they had issues and needed to reach out to those folks. So that was a pretty great project to do, to help like basically all the occupies across the United States. But the food thing was definitely one of the most rewarding that I did. So, but I like that you love dill. Like that's an underrated herb, by the way. And it's really great on eggs.
Greatest herb of all time. Eggs, soups, pickles, salads.
Oh yeah, for sure.
On fish,
I'm like a huge fan of sage, by the way. I think that's another one.
Sage is great. I mean, there's different kinds of sage. You know, you can have like sage tea. You can have the dried sage.
Yeah.
You know, there's burning sage. Sage is great. It's so versatile.
Yeah, I make this dish that's from Siena, you know, in Italy. And it's you like braise the chicken first, and then you like you kind of fry the sage, and it's with olives, and you fill it up with like chicken broth, but it's with garlic and garlic, sage, and olives, and it's like really, really simple. So what happened to your weirdo friend? Did she?
You know, when you say it that way.
I don't know if they dropped off. Let me see if they're actually. Yeah, there they are. I'm sorry, y'all.
That's okay.
Let me pop them back in. There. Okay.
There you are.
That was my bad. I'm
Sorry about that.
I was like, oh, the restream was open twice, and I was like, I'm just gonna close one of those tabs. Nothing will happen. That was a lie.
Whoops.
So it was one of those too many tabs open situations. No, sage is excellent, and there are also like a whole bunch of like different types of sage that are used
That's
for
what
different
everyone was
things.
saying,
Some of them are culinary. Yeah, I love me a garden. And also I say I'm a turnip, but that is not to say turnip is one of my favorite things to plant.
I love turnips and butter.
Yeah.
Just simply made up in butter. It's delicious.
Well, and turnip greens I had never had until I was in a long-term relationship with someone who had Southern parents, and it was the first time I'd had turnip greens. And so what I think is so cool about the turnip, other than how easily they grow and how fun it is to pull them out of the soil. I mean, legitimately, it is so fun. Them and radishes, to pull a root plant out of the ground is one of the, it is like magical. I know that is silly, but anyway, yeah,
it's like rewarding. Yeah.
Yeah. I grew turnip greens and mustard greens, which I also love mustard greens. So, but yeah, like I thought it was so cool that you could also eat the tops, the turnip tops, and cook it. And I'm like, now that is a plant that, you know, because like for instance, nightshade variety plants like tomatoes, the leaves are actually poisonous, right?
Right.
And so you don't want to be eating those. I have to wash my hands when I grow tomatoes. I get all itchy and shit.
I do.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, but I've never actually had the same experience with like, so potatoes, eggplants, and tomato plants are all nightshade plants, just in case you're curious. Although incidentally, a sweet potato is not. It is a variety of it's not a morning glory. It does a flower like a morning glory, but it's a tuber. So it actually has like morning glory type flowers. I digress. You didn't need to know any of this.
It's not related to the
delicious though.
It's not related to the tomato.
Yeah, it's not. I was so
Yeah, right.
surprised when I found out that it was related. It wasn't related to a potato. They grow
Right,
differently.
right.
I mean, they both grow similarly, but like I thought it was so. I have grown my own sweet potatoes. They were like really measly because I didn't have them in a full sun plot, but they were fun. Yeah, just yeah, it's good stuff. I digress. I'm gonna stop
No, it's
talking about
fine. We're gonna
vegetables.
talk about
No, you could get
talk
me.
about
This is
food
special.
all the rest of the time. I
What was
mean,
that?
but food is very deeply intertwined with community. I mean, it's one of the
Of
ways I've
course,
gotten
yeah.
to know my neighbors is that because I love
Yeah.
to cook and I'll make these, rich dishes and then I'll invite them over. Like one of my neighbors, though, they were 5 hours late to my dinner. And I thought, wow, I mean, there's fashionably late, and then there's late, like 5 hours late.
I would have to be like, no, I'm sorry. 5 hours?
Yeah.
No.
Were they very hungry when they came?
Yeah, they ate their meals, but then the gentleman was falling asleep at the dinner table because it was like 12:30 at night, and we had another guest, so we all had to wait around. I made this like absolutely beautiful roast, and it waited too, so we all waited with the roast, and they didn't
Bro.
apologize. They just showed on up.
Could I just
From the
refer them
island.
to Emily Post?
I don't think island people are this late. Like I have other friends from the islands, and I'm like, yeah, they've never been this late. Like 45 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, but like 5 hours. I was like, they are the most wonderful, sweetest, kindest people. Like they would give you the shirt off their back, but like, I don't think that I'm going to have them over for dinner or if I do, I'm like, okay, we're grabbing you off the street right now and we're sitting you down at the table if you come over for dinner again.
You could just tell them it's at 4 o'clock and they'll show up at maybe
Yeah, I'll
6,
be like,
7, 8.
okay, our dinner is due, and then they'll show
Right.
up at 7.
There we go.
I went to my friend's sister's birthday party up in Newark, and the invitation said 8 p.m. Be there, the party starts then. So we went, we waited. A couple people start trickling in around 9. I was like, okay, at least we're in the right place. A couple people start trickling in around 10. And then finally I was like talking to my friend, I was like, dude, where's your sister? And he's like, oh, she's still getting ready. His sister showed up at 2 o'clock in the morning for her own birthday party.
Oh,
my
God.
Diva.
That's
I
wild.
was like, how long does it take you to do your hair, woman?
I'm gonna just completely interrupt everything you guys are saying. For folks who are watching this is a fundraiser. I know we're having fun, but if I may take the initiative to reorient a little bit, because you might be watching this now live or in the future. At any point, if you're watching this, thank you. This is a life-changing, game-changing. This medication should be free for everybody, but the fact that it's not is something that we are all working to change. In the meantime, let's continue to bring in the resources that are desperately needed. So let's talk about what a donation does. $200 covers it for a month. You can cover an entire month with a $200 donation. $50 covers it for 1 week. $50, that's a week of relief. $7 is a single day. So even if you're only to give as little as $7, that buys a day of relief, a day of functionality. So there's no amount too small, but just that's the material reality of what $7 does, what $50 does, what $200 does. You can scan this QR code up here. You can hit the Zelle, PayPal, and if you can't give, you can restack. You can share, amplify this video, whether it's you're doing this live or in the future, so the more people who can see it. Your time and your attention are your most precious resources, so thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. And whether you've got a few dollars to throw in, 50 or 200, thanks to everybody who's giving to support this crucial cause.
Thanks,
Thank you, Evan. You are so good at every time I do a live with you, Evan, you are so good at being like, and here is the through line, and I appreciate your
The
Professionalism.
one thing that we should correct, though, that Opti pointed out in the comments is that it's $2,100 a month for the medication, and that's the
Oh.
struggle right now.
Oh.
Is that, yeah,
Good
and
to know.
it's super expensive. Yeah.
Code. Thank you.
So it's not. So
Thanks,
it's not. Yes. It's not $210 a month. It's $2,100 a month.
2,100, right?
$70 will cover a day. $500 would cover a week. So that doesn't change the fact that every donation matters, whether it's
Right.
5, 10,
Oh, of
20.
course.
It all
Yeah.
adds up. When we do this collectively, we get there, and we are getting there. So thank you. Whoever just scanned the QR code, you're amazing. You are my best friend. But that's the scale of the cost. That's a really thank you for that clarification. It's 10 times more extreme than we thought. To the point of community, I do want to identify how Substack, the platform, with all its flaws and with all its foibles and failures, is itself a convener of community. That none of us would know each other, none of us would be here, none of us would have discovered each other's writing, each other's content, each other's creativity, were it not for Substack. And there's something that I've not as a creator but as a consumer, I've really been drawn to the Substack subscriber chat. And some of us use them, some of us participate in others, but the subscriber chat is this low-key hub of community. And what's fascinating is that Substack as a platform, as a business, didn't even fully understand what they were offering, what they were allowing when they rolled this out. They thought it was kind of going to be one direction, creators sending stuff out, maybe getting a little feedback with their subscribers, but what has happened is subscribers themselves have formed a community that is generative, that is in some ways, pretty distinct from what the creator themselves are actually doing. And so people will tune into, and if you're watching this, you probably experienced it firsthand. You will go into a subscriber chat, maybe multiple on a daily basis, because you care about the other subscribers in that chat. Those people, those personalities, their lives, the way that they relate to the content, all matters as much, if not more, than the content itself. And so I just want to tip my hat to Substack for accidentally creating this vibrant vehicle for community, which is really quite beautiful. And it's also to hammer home the point that COVID or not, a lot of people, maybe they live in rural areas where there aren't that many people around them. Maybe they work from home and they've got a bunch of kids and it's hard for them to get out of the house. Maybe they are disabled, differently abled. There are a whole host of reasons why being able to connect to other people, from the comfort of my kitchen, is still really important and is going to continue to be really important. So that ability to be a part of community and contribute and build community from wherever you are is I don't think we should I don't think we should forget how important that is, and I want to name that aspect of it too.
Yeah, besides Substack got me my current partners, so
Oh, really?
yeah.
That's
That's
great.
no small thing.
I'm with Yanni Hamburger right now.
Writing is its own
Yanni?
gift.
That's
Yanni,
so
Yanni.
cool. Great. I love Yanni.
Yeah, he's hot. I love him too.
Good. Very cool. I
That's
didn't know that.
beautiful.
That is beautiful. I like the idea of connecting with somebody through through an app that is focused on writing and thinking. It's a really
that's
lovely
cool.
way to connect. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yanni's really cool.
Mhm.
Sorry about the dog. It's not my dog, so I guess I don't know why I'm apologizing.
You know what? You know what it is. I've noticed that I've started to get my own tribe of people in Substack. And I've started to meet all these amazing people, and we're all so far away from each other. But Substack makes it feel like you guys are right next to me.
Yeah.
It's very hard to meet people who are like-minded individuals in my area, even though I live in like a major metro area, simply because even if they are like us, they always feel kind of scared to either approach other people or to talk about their political beliefs, because like I've had people simply because of my blonde hair, my blue eyes, go, okay, so this girl could either be like a far righty or a far lefty. So like I've seen them do like the sizing up, being like, is she like one of those weird ones who was actually on the right wing? I've seen people like get afraid to be like, hey, I'm kind of lonely. Could somebody please do something about this? And then they'll just like shrink into themselves. But Substack gives us that opportunity to just like reach out and be like, yo, I need this, 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 and this. And everybody will like, yo, let's do it. And it just feels so much more natural in a weird way.
That's real. I've met in person 5 different people that I've connected with on Substack because we are in a community, in a subscriber chat that starts from a shared premise downstream of what the writer is saying. So we obviously are very different people with different values and different perspectives, but I've met people in different states. I've had 2 people that I know from the Substack community stay at my house in LA. I mean, I have an open invitation to crash on my couch to people in the Substack community because they're my people. And I know with confidence that a similar invitation would be available to me all over the world. And like, how cool is that?
Yeah.
I've met so many people on social media that now that they've been my friends for 15 years and they live in the area. So, and we're pretty tight. And I keep building like new friendships of people that I've met in the DC, Baltimore area. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It's really great.
Also, like my Substack friends are way better influences on me than the people who I knew IRL. I distanced myself from. I'm like, wow. Like I was actually telling a couple of my friends this yesterday. I was like, I realized that since I divorced my spouse and since I backed away from that particular music scene, I haven't heard about any overdoses. I haven't gotten a phone call asking how to remove a light bulb from one's rectum. I haven't like dealt with any new arrests. I haven't dealt with any sort of like weird freaking break-ins or anything like that. And I also haven't dealt with a guy asking me how to uncastrate himself. Like it's been great.
That's
very, very like, low stress.
Yeah. That's what happens when you remove yourself from those kind of situations. Things become peaceful and a little bit more clear.
Yeah. Don't ask me about the light bulb and don't ask me how my ex castrated himself. But
I'd like to know about the light bulb. I don't care about the castration, but the light bulb is an interesting thought.
So apparently ecstasy was involved. They decided to see if they could pull an Uncle Fester in the wrong end, and that's what happened. Okay, man, like I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Whew, okay.
Wow.
I know very, very strange people sometimes.
My students are a lot of them work as like medical aides in hospitals and in the ER, and they're, I sometimes really would love for there to be just comprehensive sexual education, because I feel like there are better things to use in orifices.
Right.
Might be more safe, a little easier to remove. So just thoughts, but yeah, no, I mean,
like
that is,
head,
but they tell me stuff all the time about medical emergencies that they see, and I know that they're like and but I'm just like, man, I really wish that sometimes I don't know, maybe it's just curiosity and they would choose to use a battery to do whatever they were doing with the battery, and we'll not get into the specifics there, but I feel like sometimes I wonder like what comprehensive, sexual education might do for people, and maybe they would choose things that are safer. And then my students wouldn't, my nursing students, that is, would come to me like, Dr. G, so this was my night last night. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot to process during peer review. But so yeah, real.
I just wanted to give a shout out, by the way, to Sandra. She just said she donated. So
Hey,
Can we,
Sandra.
let's do that. Let's do that. Could you do that clapping thing again? That was so cool when you did the thing. Yes.
yeah,
Look at that.
That is me.
Sandra.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. Yes. I love that so much. I'm usually not, in general, when I've heard people use sound effects, they don't use them artfully, and I feel like the clapping is lovely. I think the clapping is lovely, and it's just the right amount. It's just the right amount,
What about canned laughter?
No,
Yeah,
No.
yeah, no.
no, I can't, because then
I
you're
hate
forcing me
laughter.
to laugh, and then I want to laugh less.
I know. It's like, no. Oh, Sandra said that the QR code made it easy. That's great. I'm glad to hear that.
Oh,
Good. Well, I'm-
Yeah, that's
Good.
So then, giving a shout out to community, my husband Flightless Blurbs helped me do when I had the flyer ready, and he was like, well, how about a QR code? And I'm like, man, I don't know how to do that. And he's like, it's not that hard. This is how we do it in Canvas. So thank you, Flightless Blurbs. Yeah. So I'm sure he'll be glad to know. I'm sure he's on the chat, and he's patting himself on the back for helping me do that. Because I was like, I get to a certain point where I'm like, I can put hearts around this flyer, but how do I do the QR code? So I'm glad. Thank you, Sandra.
the hooks were nice. I like the shape of them. They were
Thank you. I'm glad that
very rad.
I'm glad that Elizabeth and Wes liked the hearts, because I was like, is this too whimsical? But then I thought, you know what? Be yourself. So
It's a sweet flyer.
It is.
Like not in sweet, but like sweet.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that in times like this, we need some sweetness,
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I
And
think,
whimsical.
and learning to trust sweetness, when it comes to us,
Yes.
I'm learning in my late 40s. I'm about to be 47. I'm learning that, that one, the point of life is not necessarily happiness, but that the emotions come and go,
Yeah.
but like things like joy and sweetness and goodness, that they're like friends that come to you and you appreciate them. And I think when you notice them and try not to hold on to them so greedily, they come back, and you start to notice these, things like sweetness and goodness more. So I'm glad that you liked my sweethearts. I was like very, I was
Did.
yeah, I did. I started with a traditional frame, and I'm like, no, this can't, I rebuke this. So, so I went with the hearts. Yeah.
It looks
Yeah,
good.
well, they look like little sketches, and I
Yeah.
liked that.
Yeah. That was Canva. That was not me. Although I do love putting hearts in my homemade doodle art as well. So the art that you
Speaking of which, my neighbor just had her hip replaced,
Oh.
and she loves to collect hearts.
Oh.
She has like wooden hearts of different sorts. So I spent like hours looking for a heart to buy for her. And I found a really nice sort of modern looking heart, because a lot of them were kind of religious oriented, which is fine, but I didn't want to, I don't know what her religion is, and I just wanted to buy her a heart that was kind of modern. And so I took it over to her, and she's recovering really well. And I didn't want to just get her flowers, because since they perish very quickly. Although, I mean, who doesn't like a bouquet of flowers? But so she approved. She's kind of a prickly pear. You never know like what day she's going to be kind of cranky. She's older. She's an older woman, but she really, really liked it. And then we like sat down, and we ended up like hashing it out about like the problems of the country, about like racism, and it turns out her niece is trans, and we just like got into it about like everything that's wrong with everything. And it was like this amazing conversation too. So as she sipped her tea, and she admired the heart that I gave her. So, that's another example of community. Like, if I hadn't bought her that heart, we would have never had that conversation, And she actually lived in this community. It's called Columbia, Maryland, if anyone's familiar with it.
I'm aware.
But it was I'm sorry?
I'm aware of that area.
Yeah, well, the mayor who founded it was like rabidly like anti-racist and was basically like, if you are a racist, you are not in any way welcome here. So it's a very like diverse city. And she lived there for like almost 20 years until she moved here to Baltimore, which is pretty cool. So it's just down the road from me. It's like 15 minutes away from where I live. It was founded in, I think, the late 60s, early 70s.
That's awesome. Yo, guys, I gotta hop off. I need to take care of a couple things, but I wanted to send you some love. Guys,
thank you for coming.
Thank you for being here.
And if I made any of you guys laugh, please donate towards the cause, okay? Show me how much you giggled over that light bulb thing.
Yeah.
Later.
Bye, Oceana.
Bye.
You know, talking about having conversations with community, I wanted to sort of piggyback off of that a little bit, Corinne. Two things. One, I love the idea of being rabidly anti-racist, you know, because I feel like that is I think that kind of energy, if more, especially if more people who are racialized white are more rabidly anti-racist, we would not be dealing with the fuck shit that we are dealing with now. But now transitioning back to what you said about the conversation with your neighbor, like, did you all know this, that when you engage in, ignore the sirens, but let's all send good vibes to whatever's happening out there. But so when you engage in conversation with somebody, especially if they're like sitting in front of you, where like you're like nervous system to nervous system, like there's proximity there. I mean, that isn't to say that it doesn't also happen in some conversations that happen like digitally, but your body chemistry changes. So even that conversation that you had with your neighbor is healing, which I think is really wonderful.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of rabidly anti-racist people, today is John Brown's birthday. So
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I don't know who John Brown is. I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh, John Brown. John Brown is awesome. Awesome abolitionist. I grew up in Akron, Ohio, where John Brown home was. So like, he is a figure of pride in Akron, Ohio, where I was born, the rubber city.
Also in Kansas. Huh? Also in Kansas.
Yeah. So dude got around a lot, and he at a time when I mean, he lived the walk. Also, I wanted to announce, this might not be an entirely artful segue, but Ellie Stern has also donated. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ellie,
for donating. We appreciate you so much. Yeah.
Let's just do the applause again.
I love those applause. That makes me very happy. I don't know why. It just
they just sound great.
It does it for me. Which is interesting. Because I actually, if it were actual human beings, and like I'm someone who doesn't even like. I'm like, if you love me, do not tell someone it's my birthday. Do not sing happy birthday to me. I will hide under something. But for some reason, the clapping soundtrack, it's lovely. There's no crowds, but I can feel the clapping of hands, and
it's a warmth of it.
It's a perfect experience from a distance, or at least when like I like giving applause, but I digress. OnyxRose, what's on your mind?
Nothing right now. I'm sorry. I'm restacking. I'm doing all the technical stuff right now. So I'm restacking. I'm actually throwing stuff out to Substack as we speak. notes.
Thanks for doing that.
Notes wise. But yeah, you know, like I say, y'all do big things in community organizing. I do small things. I still think um, it's a calling of mine. And you know, when I say it's a calling of mine, it's not something that I take lightly, nor can I. I don't make a lot of money. I don't work, but I offer counsel. I offer a shoulder. I offer, you know, someone who is objective, and can, you know, then if needed to give information, I can, or I can try. I hold confidences. You know, already it's my way of giving back. You know, it's my way of working, and I do it one on one. So, especially with a lot of trans women who don't make a lot of money and don't have places to stay, I will try and hook them up for places to stay and money, food, so on and so forth. But it's a one-on-one effort. It's not large scale. So I do it kind of quietly. You know, nobody really knows, and that's the way I prefer it.
You know, I've been a recipient of your community. You are somebody who holds counsel for me, who you know, checks in on me. I know that we have discussed, you know, had tarot discussions together.
Yes.
Yeah. So I appreciate your, you know, holding space for me, you know. So and I think that the work that you're doing, I mean, so much of community is like through these like things that so much of how we practice community is through these like efforts that other people don't know about that are holding people up, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you know, to add to that, OnyxRose, I also do a lot of those small things too, and also going back to what Evan was saying with his great notification about what we're doing here too. So the small things are crucial, and they do hold people up. And so, you know, if you don't have a lot of money, even a small amount, it all accumulates and makes a difference. So, you know, one of the things I try to do, like, every month I always pull out like $50, and we have the squeegee kids here, and they clean the the windows of the front of the cars, you know. And that's also my way of trying to engage in anti-racism, because they are Black kids, and you know, they're stuck in this capitalist hellscape just like the rest of us, and they're out there hustling, and they, you know, they've been interviewed. I've read some articles by people, like the Baltimore Sun or whatever, and they're just trying to support like families, like kids and their families, because of, you know, collecting money together with their parents or whatnot. And there's a lot of vitriol against them in the white community here, which I don't understand. So whenever I see them, I always try to give them like $10. Every time I see them, I try to give them cash. And you know, nobody sees me doing that. Obviously, it's just between me and the squeegee kid, as they're called. And then also, like, if there's a trans woman, especially a Black trans woman online, like, I always try to like toss, you know, like as much as money as I can. That's, you know, within what I can with my budget. Because I've been unemployed, unfortunately, for quite some time, but I think that's like really critical. And that's, again, it's like what you were saying. It's at that small scale, but it's really important to me, because I know that those are like marginalized communities, and they really can struggle, you know, at times. And but every dollar counts. And you know, same goes with like for Elizabeth and Wes, that but with us helping Wes with his condition, is just as a reminder, we're here because Wes, Elizabeth's husband, suffers from very debilitating eczema, and so we're doing this donate-a-thon to raise money for him. And his medicine costs $2,100 a month, and they're paying out of pocket. So, all these, every dollar really does count. And if you can't, we understand too. But if you want to hit that restack, that really helps, bring in maybe some other listeners and so forth. So, and of course, as Evan said earlier, your time is what also counts. And so we really appreciate you coming and joining us. And we're talking about why community matters and the positive experiences that we've had with community, whether it's digital or face to face.
Digital as well. So I love. I'm kind of an isolationist. I isolate myself a lot, and that's through my mental illness, because of my mental illness. But that's why I like online work so much, and that's why, especially joining Substack, I found a community I didn't know that I needed, and that was amazing. And it was this it's this queer community. So now I have a community of queer writers and friends. I know well, except for you, Evan. I don't know you, but I know the other two through other people, and we've built quite. I've built something that makes me feel happy and comfortable. It fulfills
That's great.
my need, and I hope that by my cup being filled, I'm able to fill somebody else's cup. That's the way it works. I get my cup filled, and in turn, I fill someone else's cup, and in turn, they fill someone else's cup. And then it just goes around and around. Working online is a lot like that. Now, of course, we have to guard against the Nazis. There are Nazis. There are white Christian nationalists. There are racists, and as a Black trans person, non-binary person, if I'm doing notes on Substack, I will get shit every day, and that is just the fact. Whatever I post on YouTube, I get shit on. The most vile comments you will ever hear. It comes with the territory of being out and open. I appreciate Substack for giving me a platform to do that. Also for community building, which is what we're doing here, and coming together to raise money. So and donations. It's wonderful. I love Substack. And I'm not writing on Substack anymore, but I love it. Yeah, I am writing on Beehive, y'all. So if you want to catch my writing, it's OnyxRose.net. But yeah,
Well,
I'm going to step off camera for just a minute, y'all.
And you're part of the Thistle and Moss Collective, right?
Yeah, I'm part of Thistle and Moss. Yeah, with Wendy the Druid. Okay, I'll be back in just a minute, y'all.
All right, right on. What were you saying, Evan?
Well, I'm grateful to have been invited to participate in this. And, I knew my weirdo friend, your weirdo friend, our weirdo friend, I knew you, but everybody else has become a new friend to me. So this is cool, and I really appreciate it. I'm going to be heading out shortly as well. But again, thanks for including me in this. And now I have a whole new group of people to follow and support. And I want to thank, again, most importantly, everybody who's donating, who's supporting Wes and Elizabeth, who's contributing, and just hope everybody has a beautiful afternoon.
Yeah. Thanks, Evan.
Oh, and I'm so glad.
Really nice to spend time with you.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you were like, when I said, "Hey, we're doing this thing," you were like, "Yes, I will be there." And I think that that shows your values, and I just really appreciate you being like, "Yeah, I'm absolutely gonna step up for someone I don't know, for a new neighbor." And I think that is really cool. And so I'm glad that you are getting to meet folks here that you haven't before, and hopefully there are people here who haven't met you, who can check out certain thoughts as well. So
yeah. Definitely.
And also Elizabeth and Wes are also on Substack too. We should say too.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth just thanked you, by the way, if you didn't see Evan.
Thank you. Absolutely. Okay, everybody. Peace and love.
Bye.
Here we are.
Here we are.
You know, I still like
Back
your
to the three of us.
I still like your earrings. I just wanted
Thank
to
you.
share that.
They mean a lot of danger from a friendly person if you cross me the wrong way.
Lord, I mean, I certainly, you know, I see someone with knives or guillotine earrings, and I think this is a person who has opinions and boundaries, and
Yeah,
I love that. They are quite, you know, they're very substantial, and I remarked on them yesterday that, I mean, at first I was like, what am I looking at? And then I was like, oh, those are knives. Those are steak knives.
I saw a pair of them, by the way, in Frostburg, Maryland. There's Frostburg University up there if you're familiar.
Mm-hmm.
But it was in a bookstore, a really great independent bookstore, but they were like this big.
Oh wow.
And I thought, no, these are better.
I mean, it is a statement piece, and I like it. I think that I think that they're shiny, you know.
They're very shiny.
Yeah. I think my one gripe
They're
about my crow feather earring is that it never really shows because it's always like sideways because it's on my.
I've seen it
It's on my
before. I've seen your. I've noticed. I like it a lot.
Thank you. I went to Etsy and I was like, this is going to sound weird. Can I just buy one? Because they were in a set. And I'd, at the time, only had a free thing. I should have bought the darn set, though, because I lost one. I don't know where I lost it. So I ended up buying a second.
Elizabeth likes my knives.
You want to replace your knives?
No, Elizabeth likes them. She said, she was like, are those knives?
See, they are knives. And they are intimidating and beautiful. You know, so I like that. And with the red lipstick, you know, it sends the perfect
That's in honor
message.
of Elizabeth.
Huh?
So Elizabeth usually wears red lipstick, so I was wearing it because she usually does.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm sorry she couldn't join us. I know that that she I know she really wanted to come, but
yeah,
she was very under the weather.
Yeah.
The poor thing.
Yeah.
She texted me this morning about it, and I just felt terrible for her.
Yeah. I mean, Elizabeth, I know that you know, it can be, I mean, one, just all the stress that you and your family are under, you know, that can take so much toll on, you know, I know, you know, on, you know, your body. So I know that, you know, you were like, oh, I can't be on the live, but you're here, you know. So like with us, you know, so it makes a lot of sense to not, you know, be able to attend, but we are here for you. So
yeah, we're taking care of it, and we can do another one. And
yeah, absolutely. It's nice to be able to learn a little bit about stuff. So I will mute, maybe mute myself. No, I'm not going to mute myself. Sorry. There's a helicopter.
Oh, it's okay. I can hardly hear it. Is it a helicopter?
Oh yeah. I'm glad you can't. I'm glad. That's good to know.
It's hardly. It's barely laudable.
Oh good. Yeah. You never.
It's very.
Yeah. You never know how loud things are. Well, I wanted to, just because, you know, I think the last time we did this, you know, Evan was talking about like the donations and the donation math. And so I appreciated the math part because this medication that our friend Wes needs is $2,100, so $2,100 a month. That is $70 a day. So even if you can contribute $5 or $10, you are getting him and Elizabeth a little bit closer to this medication that he needs consistent to have this medication consistently for it to be able to work. And Wes is unfortunately unable to get the discount for that medication. And so we're here to support Wes and Elizabeth, who has been, caretaking for Wes. And I know she's also experiencing and appreciating Wes in new ways as she has been realizing all of the things that before Wes had this really tremendously painful and, in her words, torturous eczema flare up that has resulted in all of these different secondary infections. That she has been noticing just all of the work that Wes holds up in the family and caretaking and building a sense of like a safety in their family. So, she's also noticing his contributions anew as she is, caretaking for Wes right now. And it's so important for whether it's at the level of some kind of partnership or collective, or even in the community, to be able to hold each other and to appreciate what we all bring to each other, and sometimes we do appreciate that when there are lapses. I'm trying to think of the tidal waves like going in and out, and you recognize the absence of someone's efforts when they're temporarily not there. Yeah.
Well, I
Right.
mean, like I said, when I had my appendectomy, I mean, I was alone. So, I mean, my friend came, but my partner wasn't here. It sounds like Elizabeth might want to join us. So,
Oh,
I think I gave her the link.
yeah. Tell her to click the link, and once she clicks the link, I'll pop her
Let me make sure that she
into.
has it. She might come in off camera, which is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Not
fine.
a problem at
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
Let me see. I think I sent it to her. I can send it to her again if she needs it again.
I just know the medication, the Dupixent, is I take biologics, or I did a biologic medication. I've taken it. I have so it's the same function of
Okay.
biologic medication, and it is indeed expensive. It is not a joke. It is used as a chemo type of drug. It is a chemo type of drug that they use for
Okay.
varying degrees of medical issues. The If it was in the United States, we would be able to get a copay card, and it would be zero. And it's unfortunate that it does not work outside of the United States, but
Yeah.
I understand how. Yeah, there we go. I understand how necessary this type of medication is. I've survived on it and needed it my whole life, since 1996 anyways, not my whole life, but since 1996. Hello, Elizabeth. Goodbye, Elizabeth. One more time. There we go.
Can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
hey.
Hey.
Good. Okay. Thank you for your patience with me not being on camera and being like not great. But yeah, I wanted to pop in because we're laying here in bed. Hi, we're laying here in bed. Wes is next to me. We got the two dogs are here, and we're a hot mess, a hot, sweaty, nauseous, disastrous mess. But I wanted to, when Dr. GPAT, when you started to talk about, like the role of a caretaker, and how when you are forced to take on that role, you really realize what you've been taking for granted in the other person. And since you all are the type of people that we can have these conversations with, and I'm assuming that the people who are listening are similarly inclined, it has me really thinking about my own internalized patriarchy. And it's something that I want, like, I've sort of mentioned to Wes and that I like know that I need to write about, which is, you know, being a heterosexual, well, whatever, I guess I'm heterosexual, heterosexual woman married to a heterosexual man, right? And this whole dynamic of being a breadwinner, right? I've been the breadwinner in our family for quite a while. And I would say in part when I really go back and look at the way that we've been together 6 years, I would say part of the reason that Wes has not been working as consistently is because of his eczema, right? Like and OnyxRose, to your point, like this is serious medication because it's a serious condition. People think eczema is like a rash, you know, and it's not.
Yeah.
Whole body inflammatory response. And if, you know, when you're having a flare up like that, you can't do anything. And even when a flare up is not quite as egregious as what he's experiencing now, you know, it messes with your confidence and messes with your ability to focus and concentrate and all of that. But back to the point that I was thinking about, that I know I need to write about, and that I think you all probably have some insight into, is like my frustration with being a breadwinner as a woman in my relationship. And that stemming from, like, as I said, internalized subconscious patriarchy, where I'm like, you know, all of these contributions that Wes has made to our household and all the things that he does when I'm over here on the computer, you know, earning money, I don't pay attention to them. You know, it's almost like the reverse of what we always hear from the outsized burden that women typically have in the household. It's the opposite here, right? Like he does a lot in the house that I am not really, I don't think I've really understood how much energy and time it takes to do all the things that he does. And now I do, because I'm doing it on top of everything else, right? And I'm like, well, you know, like, how did I manage as a women's studies major in undergrad and somebody who, you know, is very, very cognizant of all the isms and all of the ways that they intersect, right? How did I manage to like really swallow this bullshit about how he must be earning in order to be a full partner, right? Like, and are you crying? I'm making him cry. Okay. So yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, you know,
Can I
it's
talk about that? I'd like to. Okay. I want to say something about this is because, first of all, when I was transitioning, before I transitioned, I was a guy. And I was in this position where my partner made more money than I. And so I did everything at home. And my partner did everything in terms of making the money. So we had that type of relationship. Now, you know, now that I've transitioned, it's kind of the same way. She still makes more money than I do, but I do everything around the house. You know, so when something happens that disrupts that the nature or the way we live, you know, each one of us can feel it, and it's mainly, you know, not on her part. Like when I go down, you know, and then things need to be done. You know, it's this interesting thing that you know, I guess not from patriarchy standpoint for me, but for Egg is, I guess I'm talking for her and I shouldn't. So let me drop off that part.
Well, if you don't mind, I'm curious, if you don't mind, and if you don't feel comfortable asking this question, but I'm curious, like, do you feel like before you transitioned, was there more like, was she less accepting of you taking on the household role when you were a quote unquote guy? Like, did she,
That is
did she?
interesting.
Yeah, I'm
So
curious.
yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, there was some animosity. It was underneath the surface, but both of us
Mm,
could feel it. It was there, the burden of her having to bring home the bacon, as it were, and always performing, and
Mm.
understanding that if something happened, then maybe we would be two paychecks from being on the street. That it takes a toll, and I know she felt the burden of that, and a lot of it is like, why don't you get out and go and work? Just get
mhm.
a part-time job. What bring something in. But I have bipolar disorder, and I have Crohn's disease, and I had gender dysphoria, and all of that was a big old mess. And I use the fact that I wasn't working, but that was my excuse.
But it is, I mean, that is an excuse, right? That wouldn't even call it an excuse. It's a reason, and it's like,
It
I,
is.
yeah, I'm frustrated and disappointed in myself, because it's like, I wasn't able to see that. And I think that, well, I know that that is a product of the indoctrination that I received around a man's role, even being
Right.
somebody that studied women's studies, and it's and then to add, of course, there's the additional layer of the fact that we're an interracial relationship, and my husband's a Black man,
Right.
and I received a lot of my training, quote unquote, about
Right.
what a man should do from the Black community, right? And from like the idea that a Black man, there's so many stigmas around Black men not working that we've discussed, and
That
we're both well
uh,
aware of. And yeah, and then there's like stigmas around
so
interracial couples where a white woman is earning and a Black man is not earning, right?
Mm.
That's a whole trope. That's a
you were
whole trope in and
hitting
of itself.
Mm.
you were hitting everything. You were
This
hitting
is why I'm telling you,
everything,
I gotta
because
write
this is
this.
something me and Egg went through. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me and Egg went through this same thing. I can feel it in my bones right now. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing, and people on the outside, they look at it,
That's
and they make assumptions.
Yep. And that's the
It's
thing.
uh,
And like
it's a
people on
thing.
the
Yeah.
outside and like all of the shame and all of the, like we've had these conversations for years, right? And just between us and maybe like one or two close friends that I'll confide in. Hey, Deidre. And I think that I would
Hey.
have been a lot more empathetic. Actually, Krin, I was complaining to Krin not a couple weeks ago, right? I was like texting Krin, like, oh, he's still laying in the bed and blah, blah, blah. And, in reality, like, I wasn't really fully recognizing what he was going through in a way that I think I would have for a woman. And I'm like,
Mm.
wow, I suck. Like, I mean, not that I suck, but like I see it, and I was wrong. And like, we have to like, this whole situation has made me reconsider, like, how are we moving forward? Like, what expectations do I have of him that are unreasonable? What expectations do I have of him that are reasonable and that need to be fulfilled? Like, like we need to reestablish all of that, because we've been in default, and default is, you're a man, you must earn money. And like, not you have to earn more than me, not you have to earn the same as me, but you must earn money. And it's not realistic when a person can't move, you
Right.
know.
Right. Let me
So
ask you
yeah.
this: where you are, is there such a thing as disability, or can you get disability from the United States into where you are, or does that
People
carry
can get
over?
disability. Yes, you can file for disability and receive disability as a United States citizen, and then and you can receive it in Mexico.
Okay.
However, the initial, I have just looked into this, and it looks like we can go file for disability at the U.S. Embassy here in Mexico, in Merida, which is, it's a bit of a trek, but that's on the agenda for when he's well enough to travel. The question that I have is whether, well, there are a lot of considerations with that. Number one, Social Security disability in general, I believe, is based on your prior earnings. Like, the amount that you will get is based on what you've contributed over the course of prior earnings. I don't know what his amount would be. And we have to look that up and weigh what would the amount be compared to the hassle of dealing with the United States government, particularly a government that is already trying to, basically kill off disabled people.
Right.
So so that's the question. And then the other question is, because it's the kind of illness that is not, well, once he gets treated and he's in remission, he's not disabled, right? So what I know about disability is they require you to verify periodically that your condition is still making it impossible for you to work. And so ideally, 4 months from now, that won't be the case, right? Ideally, like, what we want is for him to not be in that situation. So that's an overly nuanced explanation, but yes, it's on the radar.
Okay, good. I would hope that it would be on the radar. I know it's a pain in the ass because I've done it twice. I did disability. It was an extreme pain in the ass, and I didn't do it. Egg did it, but I didn't use a lawyer, and I was rewarded disability. It took 2 years. I got off of disability because I thought I was a productive member of society and could work a full-time position. So I worked full-time for 2.5 years and had episodes again. I wasn't able to work anymore. Reapplied for disability. They said because it was within 5 years, I was able to be expedited. The expedited disability took 2 years. So, and when you were applying for disability, you cannot work. So, so for 2 years,
so I couldn't work. That whole time you couldn't work while your application was pending. Oh my God.
Right. Now, the good thing is that if you are awarded disability, they will back pay that shit. So I got a check of $25,000.
Oh yes, I actually had a client that had that exact thing happen to them, and they told me that they got their back pay, so they got a big lump sum.
So and the good thing about disability, even though it's a pain in the ass, it's a little bit of money. It's not a lot. It's enough to keep you in. It's enough to keep you in poverty. They don't want you to be. Seriously, you cannot, as a single person, you cannot live off of a disability check. I don't know. At least I don't know how you can. Let me put it to you like this: my disability check is $1,200 a month. If my partner, my wife, Egg, did not work, I don't know. I don't know what to say.
I had a friend on disability, and I don't know how she survived. Like, barely made it in Alexandria, Virginia. I mean, where the cost of living is extremely high. As you know, Elizabeth. As we know.
There's a long list of ideas and recommendations and resources that people have been wonderful. I mean, clients that I helped migrate or people that I put together their plan B in the event that they decide to migrate, just wonderful people who I've met mostly through my work, have just like looked things up for us and sent us information unsolicited, and not in like an obnoxious way, but in a put this on your list of things to check out. So yeah, we have a long list of things. My benchmark for when I will tackle those things. Well, first of all, I have to get better because I just got randomly sick, and it sounds like it might be a tick-borne illness, which is great.
Oh.
Yeah, I got a tick bite last week, and now I'm sick, and we'll see. But when I'm back to being good, which will be soon, I started antibiotics today, and when he's back to, like, I would say when he's back to a point where he can walk on his feet without pain, and take care of all his own human personal needs, right? Like feed himself. I mean, he's bathing himself. Don't worry, he washes. But where he can feed himself, where he can get up and go do whatever he needs to do for himself, then I'll be like, okay, I can take that energy and time that I'm putting into that level of care and put that toward the research and, seeing if we could qualify for these programs, seeing if, we qualified for the discount program for Dupixent when we were in the US. But the issue is that Dupixent it needs to be refrigerated. And so the logistics with Dupixent are really, really a struggle. And even getting it from Mexico City here, from the Mexican manufacturer, it was a struggle. And I talked to Dupixent, I talked to Regeneron, which is the manufacturer, the people that, the Dupixent case manager or whatever that does the patient assistance program in the US before we migrated. And this was a point of consideration, right? Like this was like, we were like, well, what are we going to do? Because we talked to the caseworker and she said, the answer was no, not if this, not maybe the period, no, point blank, no. We will not ship to Mexico. You cannot qualify for this program if you're in Mexico. Theoretically, I mean, we do have a US address. Theoretically, we could, I suppose, apply and have it shipped to the address, but that's not going to get us anywhere because it has to go through customs in Mexico. And you're not going to get syringes full of medication through customs in Mexico. First of all, maybe at all. If it does happen, it's not going to happen within the time frame that it needs to happen to keep the medicine refrigerated. So it's just it's really a logistics issue when it comes to the US program. And then the Mexican program is not anywhere near as generous as the US program, but the doctor is going to help communicate with the Mexican manufacturer and try to make like a special case for him. But yeah, like I'm gonna all of that. I was a caseworker for homeless families in my early career. So, and then I was an environmental conservation activist in all of my later career. So like bothering people to get things done is a skill set I possess. I just need to have the time and energy to do it, And it may be me flying to Mexico City and showing up at Sanofi headquarters over there. Actually, they're a French company, but the Mexican manufacturer is in Mexico City. And, if I have to show up on their doorstep in a suit and, be like, hey, like, we need this. Or if I have to, put some manufacturer on blast in the press, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take, but whatever it's going to take, obviously it has to be done. And we were, again, like all of that training and indoctrination that we receive about not asking for help, not needing help, not being vulnerable, all of that just had both of us in this like holding pattern. Like, well, hopefully like something's going to come through and I'm going to have a ton of money that pops in and I will just go buy it. And it didn't happen. And it might not happen for a while because people are struggling, and people who thought they wanted to emigrate before are now hesitating because, wars are being started and, all of that. And there could be a point where the US closes its borders and thereby closing my business. Right. So yeah, it's shitty times for a lot of people. And we're just, a couple of people that are getting caught in this horrible shitty timeness. So
yeah. You know, Elizabeth, when you said, I remember when you first shared your blog about I won't let pride kill my husband, and you wrote a sentence in there, and you said, you know, that you were afraid to share the blog because you were afraid of experiencing rejection and asking for help. And as somebody who has, and I also remember you saying that both you and Wes had, you know, you just had each other, and that you both knew what it was like to, you know, come up, you know, alone. Like you had yourself, and that was it. There was no safety net. And I felt that in such a big way. And I know that you and I had never met, but I was like, when you said the thing about the fear of rejection and asking for help, you know, as somebody who, you know, experiences like the stress of being like, if I trip, if I mess up, if I fall ill, like that is it. Like I've got nothing under me, you know, and I felt the urgency, and I you know, and also to like loop back to what you were saying about like gender dynamics and care and wage, you know, who's like earning a paid wage, you know. I think about the situation that my husband and I are in. So we got ran out of our house, and he had to, he was a caseworker for HIV positive clients. And before that, he worked with homeless coalitions in Cincinnati, Ohio. Excellent caseworker. But he has been here. And when I got here, I also experienced mild forms of eczema, but I also experienced, you know, different kinds of like chronic pain related flare ups. But there was a moment where, so I still have my job for now. And if it weren't for my husband being able to care for me, like there were 3 months where I was not able to get up off of the couch because of how bad in pain I was. And he has been steadily making sure that I have been fed, that the laundry gets done, that appointments need made, looking at like the calendar to see like, hey, you have, you know, grades due today, you know, these kinds of things. So he was very, very helpful. And it was humbling for me, because as somebody who learned that it was like unsafe to ask for help, so I feel you as a gender studies teacher, you know, like it is, it's a whole thing, you know.
It's like a mind fuck, isn't it?
Yeah. And I mean, my husband and I are both trans, but those expectations and that sort of tea that we're all brewing in, you know, and then at the same time, right, like there's all of this conversation around like worthiness and earning, you know, and then I think about the people at the very top of this structure who really aren't actually working, and they're just playing with money and siphoning off wealth,
Gambling.
and
Gamble.
they have no excuse
They're
for
parasites.
their grift. And the reason why everything is so expensive is because of these people who are just siphoning off money, draining working people's money, and then being like, what excuse do you have for yourself to be on disability? And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, you know. So it's like the other layer of this too is just the abusive narratives that we are all asked to internalize about our worthiness as being tied to like what we earn and what we contribute. Meanwhile, the people on top who are filtering these narratives down have never worked a GD day in their life, you know, and they're just and I'm not saying that like I think our purpose is to exist and be, right. It would be lovely if in this moment where we realize we're in ecological collapse, that we could go on a degrowth economy and realize we need to slow our asses down, right?
Yes,
but I find myself
I'm all about degrowth economies.
Yeah, well, because it's our only way of like survival, really. And so, but it's just one of those things where I think about how we always have this question about like who is deserving of care and need. Meanwhile, the people who produce the suffering, you know, are the ones who are filling our heads with these narratives that we're unworthy, or even these narratives about the gender dynamics of earning and and I think it's a shame that, like, not a shame, but like it's a narrative that like makes us own. I think that they're blowing it, because all right, shame is emotion that's about, I'm sorry, I love emotions. Shame is an emotion that's about that you have gone too far and this is too much. And that what my theory is that these people we call billionaires who are really mass murderers, like they're like, oh, they're projecting their shame about taking too much from an ecosystem and then blowing it through us and telling us that we're not worthy. And are we worthy of asking for care from our community? And it is so cruel to blow your shame, these billionaire shame, through regular people and make us afraid of existing. I mean, I had a friend that I worked with at my educational institution, and she is a person who has a very specific strain of Crohn's disease, and she needs very some serious meds. She was like, I feel bad about accepting my meds through insurance because I might be a burden to the university. I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not. You know, it's just, but it saturates.
Wow.
And I was looking at my husband and I was like, what am I going to do if I can't walk again? How am I going to, when I inevitably lose this job teaching, like what do I do? So, I mean, it's a thing that touches everybody, and this is like a really huge kitchen table experience, like for so many people, but you're speaking a truth that I think a lot of us are living right now.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective on the projected shame. I like, part of me wants to believe that all of the uber rich people are sociopaths who don't have the capacity to even feel shame in the first place. But that can't, I mean, humans are complex. So, there are probably a lot of uber rich people that are a mix of, kind of narcissistic, sociopathic, but that somewhere underneath there, they do have a conscience and do know that, like, they're hypocrites, number one, right? Because they're telling us all we're supposed to work ad nauseum and never demand anything. When they do the exact opposite, all they do is sit there and extract. So that, there has to be some cognitive dissonance going on there to know that you don't practice what you preach at all, that you got everything handed to you right off the bat. You never had to work for anything. I mean, look, come on, man. Look at who was in the White House.
Right.
Not only everything handed to you, but then blowing.
That guy's a sheer narcissist, though.
Yeah, no. He does not have a conscience. I don't believe he has a conscience, and I don't believe
no.
I don't think there's any projections. Well, I guess narcissists project emotions rather than feeling them, right? So, I mean, maybe, yeah, it is. There's your next book, Dr. G. Pat.
Well, I have not written the first one. I know that sounds silly, but I write articles and I've wanted to, but I always convince myself that I don't have the juice to write a book, and which is a lie, I tell myself. So maybe someday I will pick Corinne's brain about how one wades through the thicket of book writing. But
I think Corinne just discovered a new consulting practice.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
You write it and then you want to throw it into a river.
Well, that's real. That I felt that way about my dissertation, and I could say like my dissertation was as long as a book, but it doesn't, like, because I didn't publish it, it's like, doesn't count or whatever. But like,
it counts.
Yeah, it definitely counts.
And I mean, I've definitely done like an edited special. I've done book-like things, like edited special collections and stuff like that. It's just that I do not have an actual book that says, "Bye, your weirdo friend," but honestly, if I could write a book, the ones that I actually want to write, PS, are children's books. I know that's, but I've
Oh, that's
always wanted to
great.
do
You
that.
should.
My husband, who does all of the illustrations for Your Weirdo Friend, you can tell the ones that I do and the ones that he does because they're markedly different, but 95% of the stuff that I share that's art is him. And we were talking about doing a kids book together, just for the
You
joy
should
of
do
it.
that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you see the interview I did with Dr. Madison Morgan?
No.
Yeah, she's a children's book author who you need to watch that because the story's not that dissimilar in the sense that, she is a children's book author. She wrote all of these kids' books about the isms and about consent. Talk about timely. And she migrated from, the reason I brought her on The Conscientious Immigrant is because she migrated from the US to Uruguay, where, Uruguay has a very strong queer community of like people from the United States, Canada, Europe, but also, there, and very progressive politics. But nevertheless, Dr. Madison got this job at an American school in Uruguay, and a handful of right-wing, moms for liberty people. And she had already experienced this in the US, right? But in Uruguay, they basically got her fired within 72 hours of her starting the job because she started her course reading one of her books to the children. And she was hired specifically for this expertise that she brought. Right. It was the administration and the board were all on board with what she was teaching. They were all excited about it. But then these handful of parents, one of whom is a billionaire, okay, went and they, basically threatened that's my word. Her word would have been, they complained to the board of directors. And then when they didn't get what they wanted from the board of directors, when the board tried to have her back, they went to the US Embassy to complain that this school was allowing, woke teaching or whatever. So she got fired. So I brought her on and we had a great conversation. She's wonderful. She's so sweet. But you should talk to her, watch that interview and reach out to her because she is like trying to get her footing now, obviously. But she said another back to the point of community, she said she's been very much embraced and supported by the LGBTQ community in Uruguay since this happened. People yanked their kids out the school, wrote letters to the school, have been helping her with, I hope they're helping her with donations, because she needs a job now. But yeah.
Maybe that's our next donate.
Let me tap in. I'm looking at Uruguay right now and they've got some nice stuff. I don't know. I might have, just in case I have to flee. I'm sorry. That's what I was thinking.
I mean, listen, the only thing I would say, and this is something for you to talk to her about, because Uruguay is very, very, very homogeneously white. Like it's,
damn it.
Yeah.
And that's what I put in the search. Like, is it safe for a Black trans person? And they're saying, well, there may be some challenges regarding race.
Yes. Yeah, but Dr. Madison's also a Black woman, so it would be worth talking to her and asking her what her experience is like. Right? It's hard. I mean, like OnyxRose, it's very hard when I've talked to clients that are in your, with your identities. Like there's no perfect place. I end up usually being like, well, Mexico. I love Mexico so much because what I love about certain parts of Mexico is it's very much live and let live. It's like people mind their business. And I feel like that's as good as you can get in certain situations. Like, I feel like that's as good as we can get with interracial relationships. right? Like,
Yeah.
we're not going to find a place that's like, we love interracial couples and we want them here. But but we're going to find, and we have found a place that's like, oh yeah, whatever, you do you, you know, and that's enough.
That is
But
what I am looking for, you know, me and Egg, because in the you know, in the case we do have to flee, um, you know, she's white, I'm black,
mm,
I'm trans, she's queer,
mm,
you know, like
mhm.
where, you know, how does that fit world into a world view? Like, where are we gonna stay? You know, like Uruguay, uh not Puerto Rico, but San Jose. Where's San Jose? Costa Rica. Costa Rica,
Oh,
maybe.
Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, now we're gonna get all into the totally different topic. I would be
Oh,
careful with Costa
sorry.
Rica. No, I would be careful with Costa Rica because they did, their last president and their new president are very right leaning.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
Costa
Right,
Rica's on the wrong track as far
Oh
as
no.
politics.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
sad. And
You know, the
also,
first
Costa Rica
It's
is
so sad.
very white also.
Okay. Yeah, you know, it's kind of funny because all the people I know who moved to Costa Rica and are trans are white. You know, none of them are black. You know, and all of them say, you know, come on down, it's
That
great.
tracks.
And I'm like, well, let me just do some research first. So
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
when you're ready and when I'm better, let's
right.
chat and we'll
Okay.
chat and I'll point you in
Okay.
some directions for sure.
Thank you.
But I mean, anything's going to be better than the US.
Right.
Well, not any, no, not anything. Not That's not true. I mean, you want to avoid, honestly,
You don't want to go to Russia.
avoid like whole sections of, you know this already. You will avoid whole sections of the globe as a trans person, right? I mean,
Right. Oh yeah.
but
I wouldn't go anywhere near the Eastern Bloc of Europe.
no, I wouldn't
Yeah,
go to
there's
any African countries.
well, you know, and that's such a shame. I did some research, and out of the 54 African countries, I think 12 of them are somewhat safe for queer people. Now, what they said was queer, LGBTQ, but what they probably mean is LG, you know,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah,
it. Yeah.
exactly.
So,
Exactly.
Mhm.
And also there's going to be an extent to which you're expected to, you know, kind of stay in the closet. Like, you know, don't
right.
that whole like, we'll tolerate you, but keep yourself
Right.
quiet about who you are, you know, that type of thing.
Well, you know,
Um,
I have a friend in Nigeria, and I was like, and he was like, "Why don't you just come and visit me? I live in Osun State." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, I can come." And he was like, and I was like, "But you know how I dress, you know how I talk, you know how I look, and I'm not
mhm,
gonna just change my, you know, I'm not gonna change anything just to, you know." And he was like, "And maybe you probably shouldn't come then." And I was like, "Yeah,
mhm,
because I would get killed." You know, and
mhm,
it's such a shame because I would love to see Africa,
mhm.
as you know, just as a black person, just as a
Yeah.
person, I would love to see Africa.
Yeah.
Um, you know, but I'm not going to be able to.
Yeah. I mean, you know, there's like, I you could probably take a trip to Johannesburg, you know, like big cities. You're
Yeah,
always going to
maybe.
find little pockets of places, but overall, like, do you want to be someplace where, you know, the police have free license to harass you, where
Right,
if something does
right,
happen to you, it's going to be chalked up to being your fault? Like, you know, no.
right. No, and that's you know,
Mm.
unfortunately, that's I kind of think about Mexico like that. You know, in certain places,
Really?
I should say.
Yeah, I guess
I
it
don't.
probably depends. It probably
Is
depends
it?
on where.
Do they not have like a colorism problem in Mexico? Or you know, I know that the do they have a colorism problem?
That Yes, I
Okay,
don't think there's any place that doesn't have a colorism problem. But
that is true. That is true.
what I perceive, and what, you know, I've, in speaking with other Black American people that are in Mexico, um, that the way that it tends to operate is against indigenous Mexicans with indigenous ancestry and indigenous phenotypes, you know, from in communities that are historically and traditionally indigenous. That's who tends to get most of the, you know, the racist persecution.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are Afro-Mexicans. I've never met an Afro-Mexican here. You know, that's how small the population of Afro-Mexicans are. But when you talk to Black Americans from the US who have moved here, they will tell you basically they just get treated like any other American. You know, like it's more, you're classified more as, you know, a gringo.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, which is it's funny. And this is all like class is a big part of this. Economic class is a big right? Because the purchasing power that people from the United States bring to Mexico tends to be inflated several times over from what the average Mexican person earns, you know, and has. So, you know, there's an extent to which it's just kind of like, y'all are all Americans, and so we treat you like you have money, you know, like, but at the same time, I've also spoken to Black and particularly Black women that have moved to Mexico and have been living here for a while, and they've found themselves to be very, very much embraced by like communities that are mixed or, you know, with people that are with indigenous ancestry. Like there's a warmth to the culture of Mexico, right? That precedes and has managed to infiltrate the colonial influence that I think a lot of Black Americans find themselves, you know, sort of gravitating toward or feeling welcomed. My husband, first of all, everybody loves my husband. He is like the most lovable person, right? He's a small framed man, and he's like, you know, very kind, very polite, very, you know, just he's a very like likable person. It's hard to hate him. And the people here have been so kind to him. I mean, just even from out the gate, before he even spoke more than basic Spanish, people were helping him out when he looked confused, you know, like, and seriously, like he's just had the best reception here. We'll have people, strangers come up to him and give him a dap and be like, hey brother, you know, it's really, yeah, it's really interesting. And where we are is a lot of, it's the Mayan Riviera, right? And it's like, the Mayans like basically kicked the colonists out of this area, right? And you have a lot of people that are straight Mayan, like generations back. And the culture is very warm, you know, the culture is easygoing, warm, you know, fierce when it comes to conflict, but from day-to-day life, it's very warm, very family oriented, very community. And he's been really, really embraced. But, you know, he is also a cis man. So, you know, I guess I would say if you feel comfortable traveling, like if you're already traveling internationally, take a visit, you know, and like walk around in the regular places, the grocery store, you know, the go to the hospital, you know, go to the places where you really have to depend on a warm reception to make your life comfortable, and you'll see how people treat you, you know, you'll feel how people treat you.
Well, we have just a couple more minutes left. I want to thank everybody who's joined us. We have about, I think, what, 73 people here, I believe.
75.
Right? 75.
76
wow,
right now.
Yeah.
76.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, again, we appreciate your time and coming and like we've said, you know, if you want to just throw in a few dollars, every dollar counts. I know Elizabeth and Wes are greatly appreciative of your donations and getting Wes back up on his feet.
Yes, thank you so much. We really appreciate you, and like this whole experience has been transformative. We're both going to be writing about it. Like, we're already talking about what we're going to write. We can't write because our brains are not in shape for that. Like, we're like, oh my God, like there's so much reflection to be done. And it's just very, and the other thing I should mention is that a lot of the people who donated are not in the US. Like, we got donations from people who are fellow immigrants. And that is something that is part of my vision, right? Conscientious immigration, part of my vision is that like we have this global network of values aligned people, and and our community is not based around identity, it's not based around money, it's not based around, we all are in the same profession. It's based on, we share the same values and vision for what we want the world to look like. And like, we want to do it we're living it in our lives as best we can. And we want to, that's what we want to build. And I'm like, oh my God, it just like happened in this crisis. Unfortunately, it's a crisis that had to bring it and unearth it, but it's happening. And I'm like, this is right now we're in this crisis. We're going to get through it with y'all's support. We're going to get him in remission. We're going to get a long-term plan of action so that we never, ever have him in this situation ever again. And then it's our turn, the next time somebody else is in need, then it's our turn, to do whatever what's within our resources to do. So, that's just like, I'm getting chills. I'm like, you guys are amazing. And you showed me
your cup. I love it. You get your cup filled and then you fill someone else's,
That is the tapestry. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for everyone who is here. And also Wes, Lizzie, can I call you Lizzie? Am I allowed to call you Lizzie? I know you were like, but it is so
fine. You can, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your story and for having the courage to write vulnerably about how it just thank you for your words and your work, and please let Wes know that we love him. I don't know if he's listening right now, but
I just want to laugh him.
Well, he will come back to kind words. So
yes, definitely.
Yes, send him our love and healing vibes.
Vibes, definitely.
Yeah. Well, OnyxRose, I know that you are about to host another live here at 4:20 Eastern Time.
That has now changed. My co-host has dropped out, so I am not going to. But I do need to go because we're going to go get some food instead.
It's important to go get food. I have been secretly munching on goldfish crackers, and it is insufficient. So I think I should.
We're going to go to this local pizza joint and just sit and enjoy, hopefully, a nice night. So
good.
Right.
Well, thank y'all. Right. This has been amazing. Community building.
It's been
Love
great.
It.
Thanks, Elizabeth, for joining us. Or Liz, sorry.
Yeah, you inspired me, and I actually feel a little better now. So thank you.
Good. Well, now hopefully you can get a little bit of rest.
Yeah.
Yeah. The foiled plan for every night. We'll do it. We'll do it. Thank you so much.
All right, y'all. Well, thank you. Hey, Jason. Sorry you just joined right at the end.
We appreciate you.
Yeah, look in the notes for all of the links. The Go Get funding, the Venmo, the PayPal, the Cash App, and the Zelle will all be in my notes. I keep
and the QR code
sending them, and the QR code, yes, and the QR code. So thanks a lot, everybody. I'm going to shut this down right now. Does anybody have any last words?
Community is everything.
Community is everything. All righty. Thanks, y'all. Have a great night.
Thanks. Bye.